Welcome in, folks. It is week one. Sorry, I was looking at a different screen, Ryan. But it's week one, everybody. Football is back. It is time to set those lineups. Ryan, are you excited? I know I am. Bills football's back,
Come on, man. You know I'm excited. I was like a little kid at Christmas yesterday talking to my fiance when we were having dinner with the kids and stuff, and I was like, I'm just so excited to finally have football back, man. Like it's crazy that's finally here. Thursday, I had to work early Friday morning. Didn't really care. I stayed up all Thursday night and watched that game. Glad I did. Really good game on Thursday.
Very good game.
So, yeah, I'm excited. I was up till 3:30 in the morning looking up things for the show and just looking at different matchups and weather forecasts and any late injuries that might have happened or people that are questionable and stuff. Like it's been crazy for this week, and I'm really excited.
Oh, for sure. I mean, week one, at first game there, I was like excited, and then I unfortunately had one share of Ronald Jones, so I have one team that's starting Sunday with a negative points. But then I had a lot of teams that had Tom Brady, Dak, Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, so
I didn't follow my own advice.
Yeah,
I did not. No,
see? You gotta practice what you preach, Ryan.
I know, and my redraft home league, I had David Montgomery sitting in my starting lineup as my flex because I have CMC and Antonio Gibson as my RB 1 and 2, and Antonio Brown is on my bench. And I said that he should be starting in your lineups, but I went volume base with Montgomery, and I might have shot myself in the foot for this week. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out.
Yeah, you'll have to see. We got a question already here.
I like
Gold Fever Pizza. Hurts or Tannehill? Damian Harris or Chase Edmonds? Half PPR, Ryan.
Oof. I'm going to go with Damien Harris over Edmonds there.
I agree.
I feel like he's going to see more work overall than Edmonds is, and especially with it being half PPR. I feel like Edmonds won't have as big of a week in half PPR. And then Hurts and Tannehill is tough because Hurts offers that rushing upside. He's playing against the Falcons, and that could be a shootout game, but at the same time, Titans are playing the Cardinals, which would also be a high-scoring game. I'm gonna go with Tannehill here. I think he with the addition of Julio, and I'm gonna talk about Tannehill a little bit later, but with the addition of Julio, I feel like his efficiency is gonna go up even more, and the rushing upside of Hurts doesn't make up for the lack of efficiency that he showed throwing the ball last season. So I'm going to go with Tannehill in a high-scoring game against Arizona.
I like that. I think it's going to come down to how your roster is really constructed, though. I feel like Hurts is the high-upside guy. Hurts could be a top 5 quarterback this week in that matchup, especially like you mentioned, the rushing upside, the fact he's playing the Falcons, whose defense is not very good. However, Tannehill's game is going to be pretty high-scoring, too. I think they throw a little more than what they're used to. I think I'm going to take that shot on Hurts this week. I think this is a good week for him. I think that he wants to come out. The worry that I have is he hasn't played at all in the preseason. You know what I mean? Like he's obviously practiced, but we haven't seen him in a game situation. So how crisp is he? But I'm still with Hurts. I think that rushing upside gives him a safe floor. And as far as Harris and Edmonds go, I think It's tough, but I go with Harris on the basis of the volume, and I think that they run the ball a little bit more than you'll see in Arizona. And also Arizona, James Conner scares me more than, say, Ramondre Stevenson or James White with Damien Harris. So I like Damien Harris there, especially in half PPR too, because I think Edmonds sees a lot more passing work than rushing work. I think James Conner's involved a decent amount. Yeah. We have another one from Delusion Tanner. I think that's how you say that, right?
Delusional.
Jeez, it's early, guys. Julio Jones or Robert Woods flex half PPR. He has Diggs and Keenan Allen starting.
That's tough.
That is really tough. But I think I'm gonna say I'm gonna go with Julio Jones on the basis that I think they want to use him a decent amount in this game, kind of showcase why they went out and grabbed him. And I think the matchup might just be a little bit better in that game against Arizona's defense than Robert Woods has against the Bears defense. So it's kind of where I'm at. I don't know about you, Ryan. I think also you already have Diggs in it and Keenan Allen, who should be two fairly high-performing guys already at that wide receiver position. So, and they're safe. Like Keenan Allen seems really safe to me. Diggs seems really safe to me. Robert Woods does, where Julio's a little bit more of a home run shot. So that's where I kind of think Julio Jones might be a good start this week.
Yeah, as you're talking, I kind of remembered what I have typed up for my notes here, and I think I'm going to go with Julio based off the fact that he's not going to see the number one corner for the first time in his NFL career this year. Like AJ Brown's going to see whoever they decide to have cover him. And that was horrible wording. But for context, I already started Zeke and he had CD, so I'm aiming. Okay, yeah. If you're swinging for the fences, I'm definitely going Julio. Because I think, like I said, seeing the number two corner on that team, and like I said earlier, in a high-scoring game, I think Julio is the way to go there.
I agree. So lock it in. I think Julio Jones is the start.
Hard to bench Bobby Trees though. That's a tough sit.
Yeah, there's a couple like redraft leagues and stuff I'm into that some of the rosters I'm looking at, I'm like sitting guys and I'm like, man, I wish I had these guys on my dynasty team. I'd be like starting them. Like I could start my whole bench versus some of my like rebuilt dynasty teams. I'm like, God, this is hard.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Another one, Ricky Blaze. Who should I start? Juju Smith or Jerry Judy or Corey Davis? So I'm guessing he's got to start one of the three.
Yeah.
I really like Corey Davis on a volume play. I think that game's a little bit more high scoring than people anticipate. Juju, though, was used a lot against the Bills last year based on just the style of play and how they kind of had to move the ball down the field. So that could be kind of good. Also, I like Judy, honestly. I like all three of these guys. I think Jerry Judy draws the second corner. I think Bradbury, I was on with Dynasty Dorks Dave, and he had mentioned that he's a big Giants fan, watches it all the time, and he said Bradbury's the real deal, and he should draw Cortland Sutton. He doesn't really travel with guys. He kind of stays on the outside. So if Judy's playing in the slot, especially with Bridgewater at quarterback, I really like Jerry Judy this week, I think. But I really like Corey Davis, too, up against Carolina. The only worry that I have is how good is Jace Horn? You know what I'm saying? Like, he was good in college. He was physical. And is he going to be able to lock down Corey Davis? You know what I mean? And we've seen Corey Davis struggle in his career against top corners. So I'm going to say Jerry Judy, I think. I'm starting him in a lot of spots. I kind of like the matchup. It's hard to pick him over Corey Davis, though. I don't know about you, Ryan.
See, this one's tough for me, too. I think I love Jerry Judy. He's one of the guys that I'm trying to get as many shares of as I can this year because I think he matches up really well with Bridgewater's style of play. I feel like he's that short to intermediate type guy that can just constantly get open. He's a really good route runner, so I feel like he's just one of those guys that Bridgewater might target a bunch, especially with Bradbury being as good of a corner as he is and Sutton coming off the injury. Corey Davis, I mean, he saw four straight targets from Zach Wilson to start their last preseason game together. So I feel like he's going to get peppered with targets. I'm I'm not sure. Have you, Jeremy? You checked on injury reports. Have you seen anything on Jamison Crowder playing with COVID today?
He's out.
He's out. Okay.
Yeah, he's been out for a couple days. So it's Corey Davis. I know the other question is going to be Keelan Cole. He had a knee injury. I think he's a game time decision, but I think that affects Elijah Moore a little bit more than Corey Davis. But they might be depleted at wide receiver.
See here. The Jets. Can't remember who the Jets are playing. The Jets playing the Panthers. I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go with Judy here. Just like I said, I feel like he just matches up well with Bridgewater's style of play. I feel like he's going to get peppered with targets with Bradbury on Sutton. So, and I wrote something about Jerry Judy being literally the unluckiest receiver last year with how many misguided targets he had last year. So it's not that he was necessarily bad. I know he struggled with drops a little bit, but he should have had a better rookie year than what he had last year is what I'm basically trying to get at. So I'm going to go with Judy there, but it's close between Judy and Davis for me.
Yeah, and I think drops are kind of overrated in year one on the basis that it's a big change for a lot of these guys. Coming from college to the NFL, the players are better, the quarterbacks are better, they throw the ball probably a lot harder and more accurately, and unless you're Drew Lock. But it just kind of seems like, you know what I mean? There's a transition period. So if that consists in year two, that's where I see a problem. You know what I mean? So like Deontay Johnson, who's kind of had a couple of years of it, kind of seems like that might be an issue in his career. But Jerry Judy, I think if we see it again this season, that's where you're going to have some problems. For example, you saw CeeDee Lamb on Thursday night had a couple drops. Not too worried, but like it's something that you got to monitor as like the years go on. If they consistently do that, that's kind of going to be your problem.
Right.
Let's jump down to someone who popped on right now. Davonte Smith or Cortland Sutton, seeing as we're talking about Jerry Judy. How do we feel here? I'm all in on Davonte Smith this week.
Yeah,
I think against Atlanta, that's going to be a prime matchup. I think there's going to be a lot of throwing. I think that game's going to hit the over, and they got to throw to somebody, and it's going to either be Davonte Smith or those tight ends, possibly Jalen Reagor. Quez Watkins might have a role, but I think you could see possibly out of this game, I think you could see 3 top 24 wide receivers. So I'm in on Davonte Smith. Cortland Sutton, I just don't like with the Bradbury, how we talked about earlier. If Bradbury locks him down, that could be a long day for Cortland Sutton, especially coming off an injury. So I'm all in on giving the rookie a shot here in week 1.
Yeah, I agree. I think Davonte Smith is a start over Sutton this week. Like we said, Bradbury, tough matchup for Cortland Sutton, especially coming off the injury. So, like you said, Davonte Smith, he's going to see targets. He's probably going to see double-digit targets in this one against Atlanta. So, I'm going to start the rookie here as well.
All right, to continue, we have another Davonte Smith question. Zachary Chikrin, OBJ, Mostert, Davonte Smith, full PPR.
Oof.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, Mostert to me is it's a smash start, so I don't know who else he has starting in other places. Maybe the running backs position, or if he has extra flexes. Mostert against the Lions is like a lock start for me. OBJ, the injury is kind of concerning. Even if he plays, it sounds like he might be slightly limited, and especially for a wide receiver, that's concerning because you're relying on targets. So I'm a little bit on OBJ this week. So it's between Mostert and Smith for me, Ryan. If he has a stacked running back room and he can't start Mostert somewhere else, I feel like that's a safe play. Davonte Smith, though, again, like we'd alluded to, is a nice start this week. So how about you, Ryan?
Yeah, this one's for me. OBJ's out in my personal opinion for this week. I don't like to start guys that are coming off of injuries like that, even if they are high upside guys like OBJ could be. He hasn't really been the same in quite a few years now. Like you said, Mostert against the Lions, I'm starting him basically if I can, to be honest with you. Like if there's nothing else I can do, I'm going to start Raheem Mostert. But like we just said, Davonte Smith is probably going to see double-digit targets. So
it's his flex position always Chubb and Carson. Ooh. I guess since you're right there, if you're shooting high upside, Zach, I would take Davonte Smith. I think the safe play is Raheem Mostert. It's weird because they both have a high upside. Mostert. My only concern is, I think, Ryan, you alluded to it, I believe, on the Tuesday show, is if they get up do they give some of these other running backs some run? Do you know what I mean? Like Mostert's had injury problems throughout his career. So does Kyle Shanahan look at this like, okay, we're up. Let's see what Trey Sermon's got. Let's see what Elijah Mitchell's got. You know what I'm saying? So like, is Mostert capped?
But the thing is that Mostert really only needs one or two. Like we've seen him have games where he just goes absolutely bonkers on just a couple touches. So, I mean, it's not like it takes a whole lot for him to go crazy. Man, that's tough. With Chubb and Carson already in your lineup, I like Carson a lot this week. So I'm going to go with Mostert here, just purely based off the fact that he is a running back and has more ways to touch the ball and can do more with less touches. I feel like Devonta Smith is strictly dependent on what Jalen Hurts does and what he's able to do in terms of throwing in the ball. Mostert is kind of like, we know what his talent is. We know what he can do on the field. So I feel like he'd be the guy that I'd start, but that's super close.
Yeah, it's super close for me too, but I agree. I think Mostert's a safe, but still has that high upside. So
yeah.
And if I can, I like to start a third running back. Like you said, there's more ways to touch the ball. Even though it's full PPR, they can still get that, but yet they also still have the rushing upside too. So let's slide back a little bit here. Damien Scott, great guy on Twitter. What's up, Damien? Gallaudet versus OBJ. Who do you got? For me, I wish I didn't have this question. I'm going to start Gallaudet. I'm not, like we had alluded to earlier, OBJ. I'm still concerned with the injury. Galladay's obviously hurt too, but at least Galladay's like the guaranteed one there, in my opinion. So I'm going to take him out of those two. How about you, Ryan?
I honestly don't even want to start either one of them this week, if I'm being 100% honest. It's the same
with Barkley
with any confidence. Barkley's a guy I feel like you kind of have to start unless you have somebody that's just clearly a better option. Like if you have like Dalvin Cook and Nick Chubb and you have very limited flex spots or something like that, then no, you're probably not starting him with any confidence. But I feel like he's a guy that you kind of have to start just because of the way that the offense operates. They're saying that he's not going to have much of a snap count. Not really sure how much I buy into that, but they're saying that he's not going to have much of a cap on what he's going to be able to do. So the offense runs through him if he's healthy and fully healthy. So I'm starting him, but I'm not really 100% confident in it now. But for the Gallaudet OBJ thing, honestly, I think I'd rather go with OBJ just because they might be in a shootout with the Chiefs. Like if you're gonna have a guy that they're both injury concerned guys, and you have that type of question on whether you want to do that or not, I would personally go for the guy that's going to be in the higher scoring game, and I think that's the problem with the Chiefs.
Fair. Yeah, I just like Gallaudet because he's like the pure one, and I just don't. I mean, OBJ still got Landry, they got Hooper, they got Chubb, they got Hunt. There's a lot of options there. Yeah. So I don't know.
But when he's on the field, he was getting peppered from Baker, so I don't know if that changes. Maybe then I'm wrong, and I can live with that.
I just feel like either of these guys.
I want to start either one of them, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm not totally in on all of them, but let's pop into another Saquon question. Ty Wilson here. He has Barkley or Henderson. He's worried about Saquon's usage. Where you at on this one, Ryan?
I think I'm still going Saquon there. He said,
like you said, I mean, Saquon's hard to bench. Like, most likely you took him in round one. And now, like, I feel like in week one here, we're worried that he's not fully healthy, and we're trying to get a little cute with it. But I understand it. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to start your top guy, expecting him to get you 20 points or so, depending on your league format. And if he sat after the first quarter because they're worried that he isn't feeling 100%, you could have at least gotten 15 out of Darrell Henderson. So, but honestly, Darrell Henderson was injured this preseason too, and also is another guy who's proven that he sometimes can have these injury problems. And also, I don't know what's going to go on with Sony Michel. I mean, I know everybody likes to joke that he's washed up, and Sony Michel kind of like is the thing of the past, but I still like Sony Michel. I think he showed that he still has a little bit of pop, and I think the Rams can do this with Sony Michel and Darrell Henderson. So for me, I'm still in on Barkley. I'm starting him in a couple spots that I've had him in Dynasty, just because if he plays and he's 3/4 of what Barkley is, he's better than Darrell Henderson. And especially in that offense, they're going to feed him. So I'm still with Barkley. I don't know about you, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm probably still in on Saquon, even though I can understand the whole
Damien Scott, I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
Same boat. Started Zeke in one of my home leagues, and now I'm looking at it like, wow, that was bad. Should have started Ty Johnson, I guess.
That's ugly.
Right?
But for me, okay. Jake, mind your business. Mind your business.
Jake likes Saquon too, Ty, so Jake's a good guy on Twitter. He's a smart kid, so how about you, Ryan? Are you backing me and Jake or not?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Saquon here. Sony Michel actually averaged 6 yards, almost 6 yards a carry last year. So it's not like he was bad. He just didn't see the work or wasn't as productive as people would have liked to see him last year. So if he's involved at all, he could tear into Henderson's workload a little bit more than people are expecting to right now. I think it's just that offense that Henderson's tied to and how he's supposed to be supposedly going to be used. So for me, I'm gonna go with Saquon, and like you said, if he's 3/4 of what he is, or even if he plays through 3/4, he still has the possibility to be a better fantasy player for this week than Henderson is.
And I feel like they get near the end zone without Evan Ingram, I believe, is out. You are looking at it's going to go to Saquon, so I'm in on it.
Yep.
All right, so Trey S. Morning, fellas. Need some flex help. Full PPR. Henderson. Woods is his wide receiver 2. Juju, Gaskin, or Judy?
This is Judy for me.
I agree. I like Myles Gaskin, but I feel like New England's defense is going to be better than what we think, especially their front seven. So I'm worried about Gaskin's, even if he does get a full workload, like what's he really going to produce? Yeah, I like Judy. I think I'm going to shoot that upside there. I think Judy has a big day today, especially in full PPR. I think Teddy Bridgewater could be targeting him pretty well. We also have one here from Max. We have, which 2 receivers do I start this week? D-Hop, Robinson, or Brandon Ayuk? He also commented it is a full PPR league. Ryan?
So obviously D-Hop is a must start. He shouldn't even be a part of this question in my opinion. But D-Hop's a must start for me. Allen Robinson's going to see Jalen Ramsey. He's probably going to shadow him. That's going to be a tough matchup for him. Even though I love Allen Robinson, I have a ton of shares of him. He's a tough guy to engage this week.
It's another one of those, like, do you get cute or not? Like, Robinson's obviously taken high. He's a stud. We know who he is. But he has proven that with bad quarterback play, he can produce. But it's Jalen Ramsey, Andy Dalton, or you get Ayuk, who has the easy matchup against Detroit, but he has Jimmy Garoppolo.
And George Kittle's back, and we already talked about how Ayuk's volume changes dramatically with Kittle being in the lineup. So, man, it's so hard to bench Allen Robinson. It really is.
I mean, like you said, I'm starting D-Hop. D-Hop's a start for sure. So I feel like your real big question here, Max, is going to be between Robinson and Ayuk. I'm probably going to roll out Robinson. It might bite us in the butt because you have a very good Bears defense or Rams. At flex, do I start Robinson or Miles Sanders?
This for a different league?
Max, is this the same league? He just commented that, so he's there. I'm guessing what he's saying is I guess his two wide receivers are going to be Hop and then Ayuk. And then in his flex spot, he's looking for Robinson now or Sanders. For me, it's Sanders there. I think it's another high-scoring game. Yeah, so that's what he thinks.
Okay. So yeah, I go Sanders there.
Yeah, I think unfortunately I'm probably benching Allen Robinson this week, and it might bite us in the butt, but I feel like that's just a tough matchup. I don't like it against Jalen Ramsey, especially with that front four that's going to be coming at the Bears with a sketchy offensive line, and Andy Dalton is Andy Dalton. So I think I'm out on Robinson this week with that lineup.
Honestly, without like knowing what we know from last year, like how Ramsey just handled all the top wide receivers that he faced last year, I think there's only like one wide receiver that scored a touchdown against him last year. Like I'm on the top wide receivers. So, and Robinson's one of those guys you can kind of usually bank on for a touchdown or double-digit targets each week. But this week is just super tough to say. So I'm going to go with Sanders in a high-scoring game against Atlanta.
Yeah, so to wrap up all your questions, I say it's D-Hop, Ayuk, and then put Sanders in your flex, and unfortunately bench Allen Robinson this week. All right, Dominique Santabez, half PPR, need two of these wide receivers to start. Allen Robinson, Tyler Lockett, Robbie Anderson. Also have Cortland Sutton, Elijah Moore, Amon-Ra, St. Brown on the bench. And you're welcome, Max. We'll look forward to seeing you back. So, what are we looking at here? This is a tough one for me. This is a lot of talent, and I like everything that you have here, especially if this is a dynasty league. Even as a redraft league, it's pretty nice. I like Robbie Anderson in the quote-unquote Sam Darnold revenge game, also his revenge game. Tyler Lockett against Indy is a little but I don't hate it. I think like we had mentioned earlier, Cortland Sutton I'm out on. Amon-Ra St. Brown I'm out on this week. I think he could see a lot of volume, but even at half PPR, I'm kind of like, just because it is the 49ers. However, Elijah Moore is sneaky. I like Elijah Moore this week against the Panthers, especially if Keelan Cole is inactive. He is not fully inactive yet, so he's a game-time decision, so definitely check on that, Dominique. But I think we're going – at least I'm going to go, I think, Robbie Anderson, probably Tyler Lockett, and Elijah Moore. How about you, Ryan? Oh, she needs two. Oof. Robbie Anderson and Elijah Moore.
So
I know, that's bold. I mean, it's bold. But I like those two matchups way better than the rest of them.
So when I read this, I was sitting here thinking, we already talked about Allen Robinson and how hard of a bench that he is. I'm probably still benching him here. For me, it depends on your opponent and where you're sitting at currently for the week. Like if you need a home run to maybe they had Godwin or Cooper or CD or somebody like that rolling on Thursday night and they had a big week for one of those guys, I might throw Tyler Lockett in my lineup and just hope that he has one of his blow-up games that he has every year. Like half of his games are blow-up games, half of his games are duds. And you're just kind of hoping that he has one of his blow-up games. But if you're in a good spot currently in your week, I'm probably going to agree with Jeremy hearing roll with Robbie Anderson and Elijah Moore, just because I feel like Robbie Anderson was super effective last year as a number two over there.
He's a top 24 wide receiver, you know what I mean? I feel like he's a must start for me. I feel like Tyler Lockett, like you said, yeah, if he has that blow up game, it's great. But he's a boomer bust play every single week, in my opinion. So, and
that's what I mean. If you're in a tough spot, like if you had one of these guys that went off on the Thursday night game on your opponent's lineup, and you need to take the chance on the home run threat, I would take Lockett in my lineup and probably Robbie Anderson is my other one. But if you're in a nice spot and you don't have that problem, then I'd probably go Robbie Anderson and Elijah Moore.
All right. Ty, I don't remember if we answered this already. I don't think we did, but to spin the Tyler Lockett's in, Tyler Lockett or Henderson then at his flex spot?
Again, I think it comes down to where he's currently at in that league in terms of where he's sitting for his matchup. So
I like Henderson here, I think.
If he's in a safe spot, I'm going to go with Henderson because like we just talked about. Lockett's got those up and down games. If you don't have to take the chance on the home run the home run game, then I would start Henderson. And
yeah, I think Henderson gets a touchdown today. So I mean, that's a pretty guaranteed 6 points in most leagues. So I think I'm pretty safe with Henderson there. I feel like. Dominique also has a different league, half PPR, flex play, Davonte Parker or Zach Moss, Ryan? I'm going Parker, personally.
I hate both of them for this week, to be honest with you, but I'm going to go with Parker just because I hate him less for this week. I don't feel like Zach Moss is going to get enough work to outscore Davonte Parker. I feel like the Bills are going to try to throw the ball a ton against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's run defense was super stout last year. Singletary looks to be much improved from last year. I feel like he looks a lot quicker and just looks like the better option. So I'm going to go with Parker there.
I agree. All right, we got a trade question. So we got Josh Jacobs and Judy for Kyler Murray. I have Henry, Montgomery, and Stafford for quarterback. Javier, if you're there, I know you just commented this. Is this super flex or one quarterback?
It's got to be one quarterback.
Probably, but it's going to make.
He's only got Stafford, and he's trading away Josh Jacobs and Judy. I got to assume it's only one quarterback.
I guess it would depend on who your wide receivers are. I'm cool with rolling Henry and Montgomery, as long as you also have still a little bit more depth behind Jacobs. Yeah, it's one quarterback. So, I mean, I guess the question comes is how many more points do we think Kyler Murray's like QB1? You know what I mean? If Kyler Murray, he also has Diggs at wide receiver. So,
see, I'm in the camp that thinks that Murray could be the QB1 this season. I think that he's one of the guys that's right there. So I'm not a huge fan of Josh Jacobs this year. I love Judy. I'm not sure that would be enough for me. Who are your other backs?
Dominique, you are welcome, and I'm glad that you're still projected to win with the other two. I think that's a safe play. She took Lockett and A-Rob out. I think that's a nice play. I think Robbie Anderson and Elijah Moore have big days. I would say,
well, A-Rob's one of those guys that's gonna always have a high projection just because of his name, and just because of what he's capable of doing. But
so here's a real quick question, not to confuse Dominique, but say Keelan Cole's active, would you switch Lockett for Elijah Moore?
No.
All right, Dominique, you're set. Keep it. Don't change it. So it looks like Javier has Mike Davis, and he had to pick up Williams and Murray for the Gus. So he's got, I mean, that's a pretty good backfield behind Henry and Montgomery.
Henry, Montgomery.
I'd do it.
Mason Williams, Latavius Murray, Mike Davis.
He also has Mooney. Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, yep.
I'd move Jacobs for Kyler Murray. I think that's enough for me to see. I think Josh Jacobs has a decent season. I think he's a top 24 back, but I don't think he's a top 12 this season just because of Kenyon Drake. So you're not losing much there. Jerry Judy, I think his upside's still capped because Denver's still Denver. So I think he's only a top 24 guy. And you're going from Stafford, who's probably QB. I have him, I think, finishing QB 12 or 13. So to go into Kyler Murray, who's probably top 3. So I'm in for that.
He said he also has Mooney too, so that I feel like that locks me in even further into taking that.
Damien Scott wants everybody to know to find a way to start Sammy Watkins, and I like you, but I'm still not starting Sammy Watkins. I get it. I know it's his 1 week blow up, and then he goes on, and then he disappears, and he's done for the year. But I just still can't trust those Ravens to throw it more. I think they do run Tyson Williams a lot. I like Tyson Williams this week.
I think they just bury all three of those backs into the ground.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. So, yeah, they had J.K. Dobbins. They had Gus Edwards, who they invested in. They have now 4 guys who they just kind of got for free, in essence. And I feel like they just run them into the ground. One falls down and they're just going to roll out the next one. Like it's going to be a ground and pound. I still feel like that until maybe Bateman's back, I just don't see them throwing too much. And honestly, I think it's Mark Andrews this week. I'm all in on starting Mark Andrews. I mean, Marquise Brown, and then, you got Sammy on the other side, but I think Mark Andrews is going to see a lot of work this week. So, all right, you are welcome, Javier. So, until we get any more questions, Ryan, why don't we do?
That was a bunch. I just want to I appreciate all the questions. I did not expect that to start popping off like that right from the start of the show, to be honest with you. So.
Okay. He does do it every year, Damien. I get it, but it's not going to happen this year. It's time. It's time to ruin the Sammy Watkins hype. I'm out of it. I don't want it. Don't make me do it. All right, Damien? Just don't. But, all right, Ryan, here we go. Why don't we start our top sits of the week, Ryan? We'll let you lead us off for who you think is your top, I don't know, what do you want to do? You start us out.
So when I talked to you before the show, actually I talked to you yesterday about this. We had said that we were going to do 5 from each position. So I'm not sure if you're still standing on that.
Yeah, sure.
So are we doing top sits for quarterbacks to start off?
Yeah, when you started, you pick.
All right. So my first sit for this week is going to be Tua Tagovailoa going against New England. New England in week 1 seems like a guaranteed win if you're a betting man every year. I feel like Bill Belichick always has his team prepared, ready to go. In their week 15 matchup last year, Tua actually helped Miami win that game, but it was not good if you had him in your fantasy lineups. He did score 2 rushing touchdowns, but he was 20 of 26 for only 145 yards, 0 touchdowns and a pick. And Bill Belichick doesn't really like to lose the young quarterback, so I feel like he hasn't forgotten about that. He's been prepping for Tua since the season ended, and New England's at home. Love the weapons they added. I like Tua this year overall, but he's not going to be in any of my lineups this week.
All right. So, continue. We'll let you go through your 5 first.
You want me to go through my 5?
Yep.
So number 2 is Joe Burrow.
Ooh.
And this one's a tough one for me because I know the pace that he was on last year. I know the weapons he has around him. He gets Mixon back. I get all that, accept it. And I like Burrow both for this year and in dynasty formats, but week 1 against the Vikings defense that gets Neil Hunter back from injury. Burrow is only 10 months removed from a terrible knee injury, which I'm pretty sure he tore like every major ligament in his knee. I need to see it from him first before I put him in my starting lineup. I have him in a dynasty league, 1 QB dynasty league, and I'm not starting him. I just need to see what he's able to do in the pocket, see if he's able to extend any plays. He only had 3 preseason snaps, so we didn't really get to see him visually be that guy this year, or see if he's actually fully ready to go for this year. Bengals believe that he is. I feel like he has said that he believes that he is, but for me, I'm just not taking that chance this week, and he will be on my bench.
Interesting. So you're telling me in the Dynasty League I'm starting Joe Burrow, I should be worried?
Depending on what your other options are, to be honest with you. Like for
Daniel Jones.
No, I'm probably starting him. And this all comes with the caveat that you don't have any better options. Like if that's your situation, or if you have like Teddy Bridgewater, you're gonna start Joe Burrow. And
see, I'm not worried. I mean, I guess I should be probably
coming
off the ACL, but
you're not worried at all.
No, I think he does. I think he's fine.
I mean, I love the volume. To be honest with you, I love the fact that they had him throw the ball so much and so often, but the offensive line is still bad. Daniel Hunter is going to be back for the Vikings. The Vikings should be better on defense and have a pretty solid pass rush. So I'm just just a little nervous. Maybe they lean on Mixon a little bit more this game to let Burrow kind of get his feet underneath him a little bit more. Just a little skeptical about him this week. That's all. I said I like him overall. But
Dominic has another question. What do you guys think about Mac Jones versus Teddy B? I don't know if any of these guys are in your top 5, Ryan, for sits. Are they? Adam?
Teddy Bridgewater is actually my next one.
Oh, so there you go. So you're taking probably Mac over Teddy then?
Yeah, but I'm not feeling great about it, especially if it's a 1 QB league. I'm not happy about starting that. But like I said, if it comes down to Mac Jones and Teddy B, then yeah, I would probably roll with Mac Jones, to be honest with you.
Interesting.
So, reasoning. Teddy Bridgewater, like I said, is my third sit. Facing a Giants D that was the 5th stingiest against QBs last year. I do like his weapons, but the way to attack that defense for the Giants is through your backs, and I think Denver has 2 capable ones in Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. So he's a guy that I'm just not looking to start this week unless you're just absolutely desperate, like a super deep 2 QB league where you have to start 2 QBs. I'm not going to have him in my lineups for anything.
Interesting. Fair. I agree. I have him in a lot of spots. I think he was a good third quarterback for me in a lot of my startup super flex dynasties this year. Same thing. I'm sitting Teddy Bridgewater. Aside from a super flex where he's just kind of like your next best option. But he feels like just like a safe kind of third quarterback in most formats for me.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Back to your Burrow question, Damien would you start out of Chase, Higgins, or Boyd this week? I'm in on Tyler Boyd this week or Higgins. I'm out on Jamar Chase. I'm going to give him a little time to learn how to catch a football without stripes. So that's where I am with him. So,
see, I really like Tyler Boyd this week. I know
agree. I like both those guys.
Higgins is a good start too. I feel like he's gonna have a solid week, but Boyd for me seems super safe. He seems like one of those guys that you can just kind of set it and forget. To be honest with you, he's one of my wide receiver starts, so I'll talk about him a little bit more. But I'm gonna go with Boyd if I had to choose one, but I like both Boyd and Higgins.
Agreed. All right, Ryan. One more question, then you can continue. Chase Edmonds, Deebo Samuel, or Marvin Jones?
This is Marvin Jones for me, especially if it's PPR.
I kind of like Deebo Samuel, honestly. I mean, DJ Chark's going to be back. I know Marvin Jones kind of has that preset, chemistry with Trevor Lawrence, but I think I'm in on Deebo Samuel this week. I know the volume's going to be a little bit different, but he's also used in the run game as well as the pass game there. And I think that San Francisco is going to have a pretty easy time moving the ball. So I could see maybe a Deebo Samuel jet sweep touchdown or something along those lines this week. So I'm in on Samuel this week. I like the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I like both of them, to be honest with you. I just would Marvin Jones is a sleeper of mine for this week. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Marvin Jones just because they're playing Houston, and that's going to be a bad team. So I'll get into it more once we start talking about guys that might be sleepers for this week, but I'm going to pick Marvin Jones.
Fair. All right, Ryan. Give me 4 and 5.
All right. So number 4 is Carson Wentz. And
why are you hating on our boy Carson?
Whose boy?
I don't know. Somebody has to like Carson Wentz, right?
Yeah, I mean, somebody. I'm sure somebody out there is probably yelling at the screen, like, "What do you mean sit Carson Wentz?" But up against a Seahawks defense, 9th best against QBs on average fantasy points allowed last season, might be a tough matchup. Quentin Nelson's back, which definitely helps, but his injury, along with Wentz's injury, took away from the offensive chemistry that they were building over the offseason a little bit. I do like Pittman, and Paris Campbell could be a breakout this year if he's healthy. But Indy might go a tad conservative to try to get Wentz a little bit more comfortable and build some confidence in him. And I could see them leaning on Jonathan Taylor a lot in this matchup. So for me, just having that risk of the foot injury and just having a stud running back there in the backfield is enough for me to sit him if I'm able to.
I like it, though. I mean, I could see it. I mean, especially against Seattle. I don't know. I agree. The injury's a little concerning. So, all right.
Which is one of those things where he could drop back funny and just re-injure that.
Yeah, and
injury, and it's.
I know Game Day this morning too said that they've openly said that he's not 100%. So it's sore, something that could be bothering him. So.
Yeah. So. Even more reason. I didn't hear about that, but even more reason.
No, you did. Multitasking. I got like 55 screens up right now.
That's fair. That's fair. I only got one. I got to keep switching between windows. It's not fair.
Yeah, I have an iPad, so I got that playing.
I got my phone, but I want to be looking down at my phone all the time.
All right, Ryan, who's 5?
My number 5 is a guy that you probably weren't going to start anyways unless you absolutely needed to, but in case you were debating it, don't. Is Tyrod Taylor. Like I said, I'm sure you weren't going to start him regardless, but in case you had any doubts about it, Tyrod's thrown for a total of 714 yards the last 3 seasons combined. Houston does have Brandon Cooks, and I like Nico Collins a lot in the matchup that he's expected to have, but Tyrod just isn't worth a spot in your lineup this week, except for the 16-team 2 QB leagues where you have to start a starting quarterback. So Tyrod's been a QB1 before, but that was back in 2016. So he just hasn't been fantasy relevant in years. So I'm out on him.
Interesting. See, I kind of like Tyrod this week. That's interesting. He's not in my top 5, but I think it could be a sneaky kind of sleeper-like play. I feel like against Houston or against Jacksonville, it's just not the best matchup, or like not a terrible matchup. So I think he could come out and have a good game personally.
I mean, he has a potential, but I just don't see it happening. Like, we haven't seen it in 3 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's just.
Yeah. So take in mind, I think a lot of this stuff is super flex too, especially with quarterbacks. Most of these guys you probably weren't starting in 1 QB, maybe Joe Burrow. But I feel like most 1 quarterback leagues, you're probably targeting like a little bit, probably the tier above these guys. So most of this stuff, if you're seeing it, it's probably super flex for quarterback position. Mm-hmm. But for me, we're going to start this back over here. We're going to change this little Tua guy. We're going to change him over to another guy who just is not good at football, in my opinion. And that's going to be Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, why are you getting so big on me? Slow your roll. Daniel Jones, for me, is a must-sit. He's facing a Denver defense that has a very good pass rush, that this offensive line is shaky, and I think just it's Daniel Jones, man. I'm not big on him. I don't think that he has what it takes to be a very good NFL quarterback. I don't know if he's got it. I think he's a good backup, but I'm just not in on him this week. Denver, not a good matchup. So I'm out on Daniel Jones. If you have him in Superflex, look elsewhere. For me, another guy, pretty much probably not somebody you're starting. But I am going to be out on Jared Goff this week, another Superflex guy. And I only am going to bring up Jared Goff because I have him, and I'm sure other people have him in spots that you are playing in Superflex. So for me, I think that Jared Goff is actually going to surprise a lot of people this season. I think he will be fantasy relevant at points this season, but this is not it against the 49ers in week 1. I'm going to actually go, as I'm shooting this off the hip here, but I'm going to go with Russell Wilson. It's going to be a surprise. I know. And this is going to be your top guys. However, you're probably starting him. So maybe I'm going to skip this guy.
No, don't skip him.
I just don't like the matchup. So this is where I'm at. Is it a sit? Probably not unless you're playing in like a super stacked, like one quarterback league where you have other options. But I don't like his matchup against an Indianapolis defense that's very kind of almost underrated. I think these guys could be a top 5 unit this year. And I just don't love that they want to run the ball a lot more. So for me, I'm a little bit out on Russell Wilson. If you have a better option, I mean, I don't know. Like, see, I would take Matt Ryan or Jalen Hurts over Russell Wilson. And I feel like those are guys you could roster in a one quarterback league. You know what I mean? Like, that could be your backup in one quarterback. And it's tough because, like, are you getting too cute then? I don't know. I just feel like Russell Wilson this week, it's not a great matchup against the Indianapolis Colts, along with what's that offense going to look like? Pete Carroll and them have always said they want to run the ball more. So I'm just a little bit out on them this week. How about you, Ryan?
So are you saying that you're saying that in one QB you have a reliable, or not even reliable, but an established option behind him, you would sit him for the other established option?
Correct. Like, expect, like, even unestablished. Like, I'm in on Jalen Hurts. Like, I would probably start Jalen Hurts over Russell Wilson this week.
Yeah, but Jalen Hurts offers a higher rushing floor, so I feel like he could potentially have a higher upside than Russell Wilson does, especially in the matchup. But what about Trevor Lawrence?
I'd start Trevor Lawrence over him.
Really? Against Houston?
Yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have a big game, personally.
What about, and I doubt anybody has this stack, so this probably isn't realistic, but what about Justin Herbert against Washington?
Oh, look at it. See, like, are you reading my mind? But no, I wouldn't, because Justin Herbert's going to be my next guy.
Oh, see,
look at, there's a transition, so we can get off of Russell Wilson, because everybody's probably going to, like, crucify me for Russell Wilson when he, like, goes off. As
he's going to go off for 40 tonight, and then...
Yeah. But yeah, I am going to move on to Justin Herbert, because since you gave us the perfect segue. I don't like Justin Herbert against the Washington football team this week. Another team that has a tremendous front seven. I think Justin Herbert, if you have to start him, is a viable option. He's just not going to give you top 10 upside. I think he's going to be in that QB 15 range. So again, it's another guy that isn't great for me this week. So that's kind of where I'm looking at here too, with like Russell Wilson and Justin Herbert. Like, yeah, they're top sits for me, but they're like, it's too easy to pick Jared Goff and Daniel Jones. You know what I'm saying? Like, not many people are starting them unless you're playing super flex. So for me, I'm just saying, let's limit our option or our expectations here out of Russell Wilson and Justin Herbert, where you might need to look elsewhere for a high upside play. Do you know what I'm saying, Ryan? Like,
yeah, I could, yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at here, because it's just too easy for me sometimes with quarterbacks to pick sits, because you're only really starting, unless you're playing in like a 30-team league, and again, then you're starting every quarterback you have, because there's just not many options. But like, you're only ever starting 12 quarterbacks most of the time. Unless you're playing Superflex, then you're in 24. That's where like some of these guys you could start getting into. Like all of yours, I agree. I think we're great sits, especially in Superflex. And for example, Daniel Jones and Jared Goff. I guarantee you there's people out there who roster them who might need to start them this week because it's Superflex and that's just who they have. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I got a question for you. And I battle with this personally on a weekly basis, starting with last year when I got into Superflex formats. Is there a scenario where if you have Daniel Jones and Jared Goff, if you for some reason only have those, have another, obviously an elite option as your QB1, is there a scenario where you start a positional player at your Superflex spot as opposed to those guys?
Ooh, that's a good question. Do I ever? No. Personally, I always start a quarterback. I feel like their floor tends to be a little safer.
Because like last year, I had to go pick up Ben DiNucci in the Superflex league, and I did not start him. I started a positional player. And
yeah, in that situation, yes. I think if it's an established starting quarterback, you have to start them. But if it's like a non-established quarterback, I would say I would start like if he's a mid-level tier guy you think you're going to get like wide receiver 3, running back 2 numbers out of possibly, I would shoot that upside. Like
Yeah, I didn't know if you like how you approach it is if you're just always having a quarterback in that super flex spot, regardless of who it is, as long as they're starting and you know they're going to play a full game. If you're if you always have that quarterback in there, or if there's scenarios where you have a positional player in your super flex spot.
Yeah, I'm more quarterback if I can. But like you said, if it's Ben DiNucci, I'm thinking I might go with somebody else. But if he's established, he's kind of their starter, and it's like Jared Goff, I'm probably starting Jared Goff.
See, I avoided that this year because I went QB heavy in all my super flex drafts.
And you're smarter than me.
Last year I drafted 2, and it just so happened to be Dak and Joe Burrow. And
I leave round 1 with a quarterback, and then after that, it's whoever I get. It's probably not the greatest strategy, but we're going to see how it pays off. I started a lot of leagues this year, and we'll see how it goes. But it might not be the best. But my final sit's Derek Carr this week, definitely in Superflex. I'm looking elsewhere. Personally, like some of your sits, I might even would take over Derek Carr. I'd probably start.
How dare you?
I'm just saying, I'd probably start Carson Wentz over Derek Carr. I mean, you're facing the Ravens. I know that Marcus Peters went down with an ACL, but still, it's the Ravens and it's the Raiders who have Darren Waller, and that's about it. I know we all love Bryan Edwards, but this is not the week.
Henry Ruggs is going to go off.
And why does Derek Carr's thing say wide receiver? Somebody messed up. Who's doing the graphics?
Who changed it up? What's your wife doing?
Jeez Louises. God, that's embarrassing.
Derek.
Guys, I messed up. I'm sorry. Let's just switch, Ryan. Give me something else to talk about because, geez, Derek Carr.
You want to move on? Do you have a quarterback sleeper?
Do I have a quarterback sleeper? I don't, but I'll let you talk about it.
Since we're talking about quarterbacks, we might as well just stay on quarterbacks.
Yeah. Who's your sleeper?
You don't have a quarterback sleeper? You don't have anybody?
I don't. I'm not as I was busy making these things, so I'm not as prepared as you.
I'm not very prepared either. Like I said, I was up till 3:30 in the morning.
All right, I'll give you my sleeper, Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold might be a top 12 quarterback this week. I wrote about it in my yards per article, start-sit article. I like the revenge game narrative. I think that this game is a lot more high scoring, and I think that his talent around him is much better. And I just believe that Sam Darnold is going to outperform what most people think this season.
See, you're holding out on me. Why are you doing that? I don't appreciate it. My QB sleeper for this week is Baker Mayfield. QB 8 from weeks 12 through 17 last year. Currently QB 17, according to Fantasy Pros ECR. Going into a matchup against the Chiefs, and like we already talked about, it should be a very high-scoring game. Actually, the highest over/under for the week. Browns have Super Bowl aspirations this year, and I can't really think of a better way for them to start the season off than taking down debatably the odds-on favorite to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I think Baker's going to have to throw the ball a ton in order to keep up with the Chiefs in that offense. So if you're streaming the position, there are certainly worse options that you may have, and there's not going to be very many QBs, if any, on the waiver wire that are going to be involved in such a high-scoring game. So at QB 17, I feel like he's a guy that could possibly outperform that, especially in a game that I expect to be a shootout. So I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield.
Interesting. I like it, though. I can agree with that. I think Baker Mayfield this week could have a pretty high upside as well. I think that game's they're gonna have to throw to keep up with the Chiefs, like you had said, along with the fact that it is the Chiefs. They gave up. I don't remember where were they last year. They were, I think, top 10 in points given up.
For who?
Quarterbacks. The Chiefs.
For quarterbacks?
What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4.
They're like 12.
9, 10. Yep, 12. So, I mean, it's a favorable matchup. It's not like, ooh, give me that matchup. But I think Baker, especially in Superflex, could definitely pay off for you if you also have like a stud guy there. You know what I mean? Like he could definitely win you your game or your matchup this week based on the fact that if you're rolling out Josh Allen and your second quarterback's Baker Mayfield, that could be a real nice stack this week if you're playing in Superflex. All right, Ryan, what do we got let's go with running backs. Or we go with wide receivers, and you can leave Derek Carr there because I didn't know he played wide receiver.
Position change. All of a sudden, they need wide receivers, so it might work.
Maybe new change.
So where are we going? We want to go with running
backs.
All right. So you're not going to like it, but number one for me is David Montgomery.
Oof.
And like I said, I said at the very beginning of the stream, I did not follow my own advice. I started David Montgomery over Antonio Brown, and I feel like I'm really going to regret that decision for this week. He's playing in my flex spot. And I get it. He was the RB4 last year, RB1 through the last half of the year. I just want to see Montgomery do it against a defense like the Rams. The Rams allowed less than 100 yards per game on average last season. Also allowed the sixth fewest rushing touchdowns and fifth lowest yards per carry in the league. Montgomery's going to be a guy that has enough volume to keep him viable, of course, and I feel like you might have to start him based off of where you drafted him, but I wouldn't expect the RB1 to be playing in Los Angeles today.
Who's two?
Number two, that would be Josh Jacobs.
Ooh, I agree. I think Jacobs is a little scary, too. His injury issue currently.
I no longer have any shares of Josh Jacobs. I traded away my last share of him right before the free agency period began. And obviously that worked out pretty well. But, yeah, Josh Jacobs against the Ravens. Ravens were a middling team against the run last year in terms of yards, but they also gave up the fewest amount of rushing touchdowns in the league with only 7. And they also saw a league low in running back red zone touches last season. So he's not going to see a whole lot of red zone work. And if he does, it's probably not going to work out in his favor very often because the Ravens were extremely tough against running backs in the red zone. The addition of Kenyon Drake makes me nervous with Jacobs likely not seeing even the limited receiving work that he was seeing in years past. So it makes him a back that I don't really have any confidence starting until we see what exactly his workload is going to look like. I mean, he could prove me wrong, and they could give him 20 touches or 25 touches in this game, and he could end up being a RB1, high-end RB2, and I could be wrong. But for me, week one, I'm not going to take that risk when there's guys with more guaranteed volume or these higher floors, in my opinion.
I like that. I agree. I'm a little bit out on Jacobs this week too. I think that the matchup isn't great, and then the injury isn't great, and then you're also got Kenyon Drake in the backfield too, who could be stealing touches. So pretty much everything you said, I just agree with. So
fantastic. I'm glad we're on the same page.
Me too. Makes it easy. You know what I mean? Sometimes arguing is fun. It makes it good TV. But, just agreeing sometimes on some of these is just way easier. He's so bad that I put him on there 4 times. That's how bad he is.
I fully expected you to fight me over David Montgomery, though. I really expected this to come through my camera.
Honestly, to tell you the truth, most of these are probably going to be the same, I bet we'll agree on. Because, the running back position just isn't great this week. And a lot of bigger names, personally. But we'll see. David Montgomery, I just don't like. That Rams is offense. I mean, he's going to have a lot of volume probably, but what's he going to do with it? So,
yeah.
All right, Ryan, give us 3.
3 is a guy we've talked about already in Chase Edmonds. Mm-hmm. I think he has a relatively safe PPR floor, honestly, just due to the simple fact that the offense that he runs in and the potential for such a high-scoring game. But I don't think he sees enough volume overall to be in your lineups this week. It's likely that James Conner handles the goal line work and the majority of the rushing work for Arizona when it's not Kyler Murray being used in one way or another. And the Titans were a top 12 defense in terms of receptions of backs last year. So he might struggle to get as much touches as maybe he's expected to. He was an offseason darling before the Conner signing, but for a week one option, I feel like you should have better ways to go about your flex position than Chase Edmonds.
I like that. I'm really torn though on this situation. Like, you know what I mean? This game should be high scoring. I feel like you want to buy into it, and I feel like Chase Edmonds is going to get some work. But I also just don't.
Oh, he's gonna see work. There's no doubt about it. But I feel like with Kyler being the main rusher for that team, like he's likely gonna lead the team in rushing this year, based off of what we've seen from both Edmonds and James Conner the past couple of years. And they still have D-Hop. They just signed AJ Green. Rondell Moore is going to see some rushing attempts. He's going to see some manufactured touches out of the backfield, I'm sure. So all of that just kind of plays into me not wanting any part of Edmonds right now. I'm not, like I said, if week one, if at the end of Monday night, Chase Edmonds, I know they play today, but if Chase Edmonds finishes a top 12 running back because he saw 20 touches, then obviously I'm wrong, and maybe we have to readjust how we look at him. But for right now in week one, where I'm not really willing to take much risk if I don't need to, I'm setting them.
Don't they kind of remind you of like the Bills backfield? Like, I feel like Chase Edmonds is Devin Singletary inside the 20 to 20, sees the passing work, but then once they get in the red zone, I feel like that's how Connor's going to get used, where like Zach Moss does. You know what I mean? Like I could see that kind of being like that format.
And Kyler and Josh Allen are their main thing. So yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I feel like Zach Moss might be better than James Conner, but overall, I see what you're saying for sure.
Quick question from Dominique here.
Ooh.
As we're killing Chase Edmonds. I'm sorry, not to make you feel bad, but she went heavy. He's my RB1 in 2 leagues. Can it work out? She went wide receiver heavy.
Oof.
I think it can. I mean he's a risky RB1. But I think he could. I just want to see that usage. You know what I mean? I don't believe James Conner stays healthy all year also. So there will be a point where Chase Edmonds is the only guy in that backfield. So yeah, I think it could work out. It's a little risky. It's not something that I personally practice. I feel like if I look at a team and I have a couple of these, I tried it this offseason just to kind of see how it would feel, just to help me as like an analyst kind of see like, hey, if someone's asking me 0 running back, does it work? Like, I personally, when I look at that roster like that, I don't love it. I feel more secure with multiple running back options versus wide receivers, where I feel like wide receivers, you can kind of flex a little bit more and kind of play that waiver wire ad. So, but I think it could. I know people who have done it, and I think Chase Edmonds will do well. I don't know if he's going to be an RB1 this season. I feel like he might be a 2, like a 15 to 24 side. But I don't hate it. How about you, Ryan?
See, I'm assuming this is probably a redraft, because I feel like that's really the only way that people use 0 running back effectively. I feel like it's not a great move for Dynasty just because of having to have your roster turnover every year. But for me personally, I don't go after the 0 RB draft strategy, especially in redrafts. I usually try to attack running back in redrafts just because they have like single season value from year to year. You don't know, like J.K. Dobbins, for example, he was a top 10 option for running backs, tears his ACL, and he's done for the year, and now he's essentially worthless in redrafts. So for me, I don't attack that strategy, but I could see Edmonds being – overall, I could see him being worth it in PPR. It just depends on how wide receiver heavy you actually went and how deep you waited for running back. Like if you have Edmonds and say – I'm trying to think of another lower-end running back. If you have Edmonds and say, like we talked, Devin Singletary maybe, I feel like that would work out because I feel like Singletary is a solid PPR option. That's a later round pick. So yeah, it could. It just depends on how deep you went and what exactly your wide receiver and I guess what the rest of your roster looks like overall, what the rest of your wide receivers and tight ends look like, and just I don't know. It's tough. He says he's got Edmonds, Fournette, and Melvin Gordon, and that's brutal for me, to be honest with you, because I think I'm not a huge fan of Fournette, and I think Melvin Gordon gets replaced by Davonte, or at the very least splits carries in half with Davonte by the end of the year. So, I mean, it could still work. Like I said, wide receivers could carry you to a championship. We've seen it happen before. Stephon Diggs almost single-handedly almost beat me in a championship game last year in that final week 16 game. So, I mean, I could see it happening. I'm just not personally comfortable doing it.
Yeah, I agree. It can work. I just haven't seen it work personally.
I went after it a couple years ago in redraft when zero RB like really became a thing, and this was back even before I really took fantasy really seriously. But and I actually won my league doing it. But I also was playing with some guys that were in the same boat, that they weren't really taking fantasy seriously. So in a competitive league, I'm not sure how much it works, but I'm sure there's going to be leagues where it does work. Like there's no surefire strategy that works and doesn't work every single time, but it just kind of, I don't know.
So, Ryan, since I'm completely oblivious this morning, I'm realizing now that Dominique is someone who we did have a question from during the week. And I don't know if we already answered it, so you can just say yes in the chat, Dominique, if we did. If not, I can pull up the roster screen that we have for you, if not. So let us know, and then we'll move on to that. But Ryan, give us your fourth running back until we find out.
Well, actually, my fourth running back is Melvin Gordon. So I literally have in my notes here for him just Javonte Williams after it. That's all. It's Melvin Gordon dash Javonte Williams. I think the presence of Williams and the trust that Vic Fangio has publicly expressed for him recently is enough for me to sit him this week, even though it's a good matchup for running backs. And Gordon will likely still be start worthy in deeper leagues. I think his ceiling is capped immensely with Javonte Williams being there. I think he's one of those guys that you kind of just start with your own risk, unless you absolutely have to start him. I'm just not a huge fan of putting him in my lineup. Like I feel like it just looks ugly with him sitting in there. So he's just a guy that I'm not excited about for week one.
So what you're saying is in all the spots that I have him started, I should take him out?
I don't know what your other options are.
Oh, some of them I have Javonte and Melvin Gordon started.
See that? Oh, okay. I need to say this because it drives me nuts. I
hate doing it. Don't worry, but
I understand why they do it, but I hate when ranking sites or anybody that does rankings has two guys that are going to be close, like side by side. Like I understand why they do it because it's hard to predict what's going to happen, but Fantasy Pros DCR has Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams right next to each other, and same with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Judy that are right next to each other. And it drives me nuts because you're going there looking to see who you should be starting and who experts have ranked higher, and then you have them sitting right next to each other, and it's like, well, that doesn't help me at all. Like I feel like I wish we could just get a little bit more clarity out of what people are looking at in terms of their rankings and who they should sit and start. Like I said, I understand why they do it, and I can't say anything about it because I don't personally do my own rankings yet this year. I feel like I'm going to wait until next year to start doing all that stuff. But
I can tell you as somebody who does it, it makes it hard. And projections. Like I tried projections the first time this year with the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and it's an undertaking. So if you I get what you're saying, but there's massive respect from me on the side of people who can actually do that and people who are good at it.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yep,
I'm doing it, and I can guarantee you that when I did it, I first looked at it and I'm like, okay, this makes no sense. I had guys getting 2,000 yards, and it was okay, but this makes no sense. So there's massive respect from me on that side. And even rankings, me, I've done rankings before, just amongst myself to like kind of be like, okay, I like this guy, this guy, this guy. But now when you're at it, and like I'm one of those guys, I have Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams very close because it's the same thing. If one of them had a lead role, I almost feel like they're a top 15 back. But because they're splitting it, they're like 24 and 26. Do you know what I mean?
No,
like,
yeah, and I completely understand that. I completely get that. And I can't, like I said, I can't say anything negative about those people that do that.
No,
because
I get it.
Personally, do it myself. I'm just saying, like,
it is frustrating as somebody like looking at it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're going there strictly as a fantasy player, no analytics involved, no any other knowledge outside of, hey, I want to know who I need to start between this guy and this guy. Who do I start? And then you go and look at rankings and you see them right next to each other. You're like, I guess I'm going to start the guy that they put on top. Like, that's basically what it boils down to. So
I think week one's even harder too. I think you'll start to see a discrepancy, especially like, for example, we'll use the Broncos, like Javonte and Melvin Gordon. We'll see what the workload is. And then like, you'll see them start to separate in one direction or the other, especially week one.
Yeah. It's just, I just noticed it last night when I was looking at rankings on ECR.
No, I get it.
And I'm just like, man, why you gotta do that?
Right. I get it. All right, Bill's got a question here. Saquon or Raheem Mostert? Saquon plays again Thursday. Ryan, I like Mostert it's a juicy start for me. But Saquon's hard to bench, and I get that he plays again Thursday. So like that's a valid point. It's something we didn't bring up earlier when talking about Saquon. Like, do they limit him because they know that he has to come back and play again Thursday? Ryan.
Go ahead for just 1 second. I gotta look something up real quick.
All right. For me, I think I'd try to play both, honestly. I don't know, Bill, what the rest of your lineup looks like. I really like Mostert against Detroit. I think that's a top 5 matchup this week. Saquon, though, is just so good that he only needs 15 plays to be like fantasy relevant, like to finish as a top 24 guy. So I'm trying to start both. I don't know what the rest of your lineup looks like. He's got Montgomery, he said, as well. I'm definitely benching Montgomery for Saquon. Like, let's put it that way. For me, out of those three, I'm looking at Mostert as a must start, and then Montgomery I would bench for Saquon, if that helps you. I don't know if I would start two of them. You know what I mean? Like, Montgomery, I love Montgomery. I'm a big Montgomery guy. The matchup against the Rams, especially being a Sunday night game, it's not great. And could he go off? He could. He could score 2 1-yard touchdowns and make himself fantasy relevant. But I just like that high upside from Mostert and Saquon today versus David Montgomery, who doesn't have as safe of a play, in my opinion, especially in that matchup. And as we can see, Ryan doesn't like him as he's in his top 5 sits. So, all right.
So, and what I was looking up was who exactly the Giants play next week, because I wasn't 100% sure on it. They play Washington next week on Thursday night. So now that I see that, I would be mindful of that, though, that maybe if he even comes up even a little bit hobbled, they might just sit him down for the rest of the game. You know what I mean? Like, they might just, if he comes up limping, or if he comes up even saying that he's got some tightness or something in his knee, they might just sit him down and say, okay, we need you for next week against Washington. But I agree with you, though. I'm still, even with that in mind, I'm willing to take the risk on the upside of Saquon over Montgomery in his matchup against the Rams. So I would start Mostert and Saquon over Montgomery. Yeah,
I agree. And I think it's week one. You always want to start a season out with a W, but like, I'm starting Saquon. I don't want to regret putting Saquon on the bench and him scoring 25 points. Like, David Montgomery is highly unlikely getting to 25. So I'm in on Saquon and Mostert as the start there. All right, Ryan, you're welcome, Bill, and give us your last sit of the week at the running back position.
So after we touch on this real quick, Dominique asked if we could go over her 14-team league, so we'll touch on that. So you can put whoever you want up there, but I'm not starting any of the Jets running backs. Carolina's defense is young and fast, and they're improving. They improved leaps and bounds from the start of last year until the end of this past season. And it's a depth chart full of guys I can see work. I'm just avoiding it as much as I possibly can. It's likely you have a safer option somewhere, especially in week one. If you have to start one, I'm probably just going to throw a dart at Tevin Coleman because he's listed as first on the depth chart, and he's got the most familiarity with the playbook and the coaching staff. But I would feel really, really gross starting them if I didn't have to. Like super deep leagues, I understand it. I know that sometimes you just can't help it, but if you can avoid it, I would not be starting any of the Jets running backs, even Michael Carter, even though he's probably
like third or fourth
overall redraft value. He's listed last on the depth chart. He's behind Ty Johnson and Michael Pirine.
So you're telling me I shouldn't start Ty Johnson in the couple spots I have him started?
Yeah, if you have to, you have to. Like I don't.
I mean, I had multiple leagues where I had Dobbins and Gus Edwards. So let's put it. This is where my running back state is right now this year.
Yeah, in that situation, you probably have to.
And it's not even week one.
Williams.
This all happened before week one, and I'm just like, oh boy, this is going to be a fun fantasy season, isn't it? Great. All right, Ryan, let's slip over. So Dominique sent this into us earlier this week. This is kind of something that we want to try and start employing. If you do send us in your rosters a little bit ahead of time, we're going to kind of set it up like this, a little differently depending on how many starts, how your roster construction is. So if you want, like Dominique is, you can just be kind of in the chat. We'll go over it. Dominique has said this is a 14-team home league, and it is a pretty unique setup. I had it somewhere. I lost it on the screen here. Oh, it's right here. My bad. Sorry, guys. Week one glitches here. But so basically it is half PPR, and then it's 1 point for every 50 passing yards, 1 point for every 25 receiving and rushing yards, and 6-point touchdowns. So to me, this basically screams like touchdowns are key. It's kind of set up like a standard league in essence, where touchdowns are really key. So Ryan, what do you think of the roster? She kind of feels like she had her questions answered, which I don't know if this is the same team, though, because I feel like I don't remember answering some of these questions.
Lockett, Robinson, Robbie Anderson. Yeah, we talked about it. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Robbie Anderson.
I thought she said she had Elijah Mitchell or Elijah Moore, unless I put the person in there wrong instead of Michael Carter. I could be wrong. See, look at the graphics guy. It's just junk. We got to get a new one.
I don't know who did it, but I'm not going to point fingers. But yeah, said half PPR need Robinson, Lockett, Robbie Anderson. Also have Sutton, Elijah Mitchell, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So one of these guys is supposed to be.
I think it's supposed to be Elijah Moore instead of Michael Carter. But anyways, Ryan, talk about her roster. She wanted to know. No, it says Michael Carter. How many you blind was?
I don't know what's happening.
Oh, she dropped Pollard for Elijah Moore. Okay. Fair.
All right, there we go. That makes sense.
We'll change it real quick then for you so it looks good. Okay. Go ahead. Talk about it, Ryan. All right. There we go. I like it. It's a 14-team league. So I kind of like it. The quarterback position, Teddy Bridgewater and Mac Jones is pretty good. I like Mac Jones' upside this year, especially playing in New England. I think that he's not going to make New England better, but he's very like Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr like to me. I think he might be a top 20 option this year. I think that's your biggest concern is your quarterback position here. Outside of that, I like McCaffrey. I think James Robinson's a good play. Michael Carter, I think, might end up being okay. I think it's just going to take some time in that offense to kind of beat out the other two guys. And then your wide receivers are great. I like Cortland Sutton's outlook this season. I like Robbie Anderson's outlook. I like Elijah Moore. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I like them all. I think Robinson will be great this year too, just not this week. Tyler Lockett's kind of the same way. And Darren Waller's a great get at tight end. So I like it. I definitely think it's a team that could do some damage this year, especially if Elijah Moore and Amon-Ra St. Brown hit. You're definitely stacked in that position. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I agree with you. Quarterback's obviously the main concern here, but Jeremy, does it say in her thing that passing touchdowns are 6 points as well?
It just said 6-point touchdowns, so she's here. She wants to answer. But I would think basically just she's saying 6-point touchdowns in general, so probably. But
oh my gosh, my mic keeps muting for some reason. It keeps saying comes unplugged. I don't know why. But yeah, overall, I really like the team. Especially, I think Elijah Moore is a pretty safe bet to hit this season. To be honest with you, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown and Michael Carter are the two that you're probably looking to. Like you're really hoping that hit. I feel like Elijah Moore is just super talented. 6-point passing touchdowns. So with 6-point passing touchdowns for quarterbacks, that makes it a little bit more bearable having Mac Jones and Teddy Bridgewater, to be honest with you. But at the same time, you're also going to have guys that have Patrick Mahomes putting up 18 points just off passing touchdowns a week. So having CMC and a guy like Allen Robinson, especially Darren Waller, having that positional advantage there with him is obviously really nice to have. She says Jameis is also on waivers. Would you drop either QB for him? I'd probably drop Teddy Bridgewater for Jameis.
yeah, I would. I think they're both in a similar situation. I mean, at some point, Drew Lock could take over for Bridgewater.
Yep.
And Jameis, I think, probably has that pretty guaranteed role all year. But I would probably make that move. Definitely.
Yeah, I would probably take the upside of.
I think the upside on Winston is way higher than Teddy Bridgewater. I think Winston could be a top 12 quarterback, especially once Michael Thomas comes back. So I would try and make that move. I don't know if it. The question's going to be is if he goes off today against Green Bay, how much you'll be able to snag him for. Unless you can get it somehow through today, I would make that move before the game start.
Yeah, I feel like that is today's matchup for Jameis might actually play in her favor a little bit in that regard because it's such a tough matchup against Green Bay with Jair Alexander on Marquez Callaway and really taking away his seems to be his favorite target there.
His only target.
He has Alvin Kamara he can throw to.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, I would definitely make that move. I would definitely try to add Jameis for Teddy Bridgewater, especially if
You're muted again, Ryan.
But if it's an ESPN league where you can just kind of add drop freely right now, that's a move that I would definitely make. If the league set up where you have to wait until after all the week 1 games are played, I know some leagues are set up where as soon as the Thursday night game starts, the waivers lock for some reason. Then obviously you might be in trouble trying to get them. But if you're able to, I'd go pick them up now. Overall, I really like the team, though. James Robinson, obviously, I don't know when you drafted, but that obviously paid off drafting him whenever you did. Robbie Anderson, like we said, I feel like he has a really safe and top 24-ish outlook for the year. So overall, I really like it. Tyler Lockett provides that upside that you can have from week to week where he might have that home run game. And you also have a couple guys that might turn into – you have Robbie Anderson that's a safe option, so you can plug him in Tyler Lockett if you don't like the matchup like we do this week. So, I actually really like the team, especially if you had Jameis instead of Bridgewater.
She says he got dropped, so he's not a free agent. But either way, I'd put in for the waiver claim. If you get him, you get him. If not, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater's not a terrible backup. In essence, I'd probably start Mac Jones most weeks. But all right, Felipe has a question: start or bench Austin Eckler? Felipe, if you're still there, who is your other options? I think that would help us a little bit there. I feel like I'm still in on starting Austin Eckler. I think his upside's pretty big. I know it's Washington, but I still like Austin Eckler. I feel like it's one of those studs you drafted that you can't not start personally. But depending on how deep your league is and what else you have as an option, I could maybe see benching him. So if you're there, why don't you maybe give us a little bit more and we can maybe help you out there. Let's see here. So running backs, I will hit you guys pretty quick so we can kind of get through most of this stuff since we're getting close to kickoff here. I'm going to put up as his only other choice is Marlon Mack. Yeah, I'm starting Eckler.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep.
100%. So he got big on us here because I don't know what's going on with this program today. But I'm going to put Devin Singletary. Any Bills running back you have, do not start him.
Take it back.
Out on every single running back. And honestly, I'm just hoping because sometimes my luck is terrible that this just projects into the Bills scoring a lot of points and he goes off. So as a personal homer, that's my hope. But I'm just not in on any of the Bills running backs. Messy situation. I know if you went as your running back kind of thing, you might have a lot of them, but I'm just out on them. I think this week, terrible matchup. Another one, I'll leave Josh Jacobs here. I agree with Ryan. I do not like Josh Jacobs' matchup this week, so I am out on him. Somebody else I am out on is going to be a big gasp, Ryan. I like making it spicy a little bit.
Don't do it.
I'm going to do it. It's a guy who hasn't even played this offseason, DeAndre Swift. I am out on the Lions running backs this week. It is a terrible matchup against the 49ers. The only way that I would think about DeAndre Swift would be a flex situation PPR league because I do believe they'll be playing from behind. Other than that, I'm just kind of out on him. Excuse me.
You don't like him with only having him, or not necessarily only having him, but not really having a whole lot of proven pass catchers to throw the ball to. You don't think he'll get enough work?
No, because I just don't think they're going to move the ball. I could see the Lions not scoring a touchdown today, if I'm being honest. I just don't like the matchup. I don't like that they I just don't like it. I think that in a PPR league, maybe they might be throwing to him as an option, but I mean, they still have TJ Hawkinson. They obviously like Tyrell Williams. They kept him. They like Amon-Ra St. Brown. They have Quintez Cephas. They have guys. They're not proven, but I don't see them just throwing to only DeAndre Swift. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that would be kind of an option. I also just don't know if there's a touchdown upside. So for me, again, for a guy that's so highly taught after this offseason, like for me, he's kind of like a flex play at best this week. And this is just kind of how I feel about it. And I got to put him back up here. I don't know why I took him off. But David Montgomery.
He's the ECR 21 right now. So
yeah. I mean, he's kind of slipped a little bit ever since there's like the murder thing going around, but I don't freaking know what's going on with that. Don't ask me. Let's not get into it. David Montgomery, another one that I agree with Ryan with. That matchup is the worst, according to Pro Football Focus this week. So I'm just completely out on David Montgomery, unless you have to. I mean, there's some spots that I kind of starting him on as we know, I'm a J.K. Dobbins guy and a Javonte Williams guy, both of which might not be very great for week one. So kind of out there. And then for me, I'm probably going to say and probably give another big one, maybe another gasp from Ryan, another NFC guy. He wears the color black. Do you have any idea, Ryan? It's Mike Davis. I'm out this week. I know people are going to kind of be like, well, there's going to be a lot of points scored. Don't you want to be in on that? Wayne Gallman scares me. I honestly think they're equal. I think Wayne Gallman might be better than Mike Davis. So who's it going to be? And week one, it's going to be messy, and I just don't want any part of that.
I haven't heard any news on how Gallman's looking in that backfield right now. Like, I haven't seen much of anything in terms of where he's, like, even if you Google his name and look at the news tab, it's Falcons signed running back Wayne Gallman. And, like, it's not, there's no word from the coaching staff about how he's going to be used, anything like that. So, yeah, he makes me a little bit nervous. You just have no idea what the heck they're going to do with that backfield.
See, it's scary. I just don't like it. It's kind of where I'm at. So, Ryan, do we know, Felix, are you on in any capacity? If so, please just let us know for a comment. I know you had submitted a lineup and you wanted some stuff talked about, so I don't want to forget about that. Also, Ryan, do you know if Dan's coming on?
Dan has not gotten back to me.
All right. So
he's active right now. Hang on. He's active right now.
You're good.
So go ahead and go about what you're going to do, and I will get a hold of it.
Right. Let's get him on the horn. Let's move over to wide receivers. Are you physically calling him? Because if so, I can hear you, Ryan. There you go. So for me, wide receivers, a guy that you might be thinking about flexing that I am not into this week would be, let's find it here. Sorry, pardon me. Is going to be Henry Ruggs. Either that and or just in general, the Raiders. I'm kind of out on them this week as far as a flex option. I don't like their opportunity. I think Derek Carr is going to struggle against the Ravens, so I'm just kind of out on Henry Ruggs at the wide receiver position, whether it's a flex and or wide receiver start. Another guy I am out on this week is going to be somebody who a lot of people are probably high on, but it's going to be wrong person. It's going to be Jalen Waddle. He's a rookie coming out. A lot of people, a lot of hype. He's a big playmaker. It only takes one play for him to make something happen. But the Dolphins facing the Patriots, it's a good defense. I'm even kind of a little concerned about Davonte Parker, but I just think he's going to see a little bit more volume. For me, this game is a big thing. Gesicki's a nice start, in my opinion, but I am out on Jalen Waddle. For week one, I am also going to be out on some guys that we had some questions on earlier. That is going to be the Browns. I'm definitely out on OBJ. I don't like that he's coming off the injury. He might not even play. So I'm definitely out on Odell Beckham this week. I'm looking elsewhere if I can to try and get him a start there, definitely in flex or not. As we are going over this, we got something from Felipe again, Sutton, Ayuk, and Robbie Anderson. We had to pick two, and that's going to lead me into my next third option. So perfect timing. We actually don't pay him, although we probably should because that was perfect. Cortland Sutton is a sit for me. I was on with, like I mentioned earlier, Dynasty Dorks Dave. I'm a big Giants fan. Bradbury's most likely going to lock on to Cortland Sutton. Not a good situation for him, especially coming off the ACL. I think Jerry Judy's a better start in Denver. So for me, I would take Robbie Anderson and Brandon Ayuk. After I mention my fifth person, I will let Ryan get on the horn and answer your question too, Felipe. But for me, this is going to be another waiver wire darling, I guess you could say. Mine's Marquez Callaway. I have him in a lot of spots. I might have to start him depending on how everything breaks down. But the matchup with Jair Alexander, I think, is really going to hurt a lot of people who start Callaway this week. I just don't like his chance to outperform Jair Alexander. Let's put it that way. So those are my top five sits. Ryan, how would you answer Felipe's question? And then you can give us your top five.
Yeah, that was pretty easy for me. It's Ayuk and Robbie Anderson for me as well.
Why do you sound like you're so far away?
I had to clear my throat.
Oh.
See if that helps any.
Yep, now you're better.
All right. Dan is apparently ignoring my phone calls, so I'm going to have to fight him later. But
that's fine. We don't need him.
We don't. He's useless anyways. So 3 of my guys are actually on your list already. So
sweet.
You can leave Marquez Callaway, you can leave Jalen Waddle, and you can leave Cortland Sutton there.
Perfect. Look at that. Great minds think alike.
Like you said, Marquez Callaway, he's going to be shadowed by Jair Alexander, one of the best lockdown corners in the league. They're going to have to find a different way to get the ball rolling against Green Bay. I think it's probably going to be a big Alvin Kamara game. In terms of Jalen Waddle, he's going to be explosive in this league, like you said. It only takes one touch for him to make it worthy in your flex spot. But Patriots defense is a tall task for a rookie wide receiver to go up against. Cortland Sutton, come off the injury, James Bradbury coverage. He's going to have some struggles for this week, I think. And Bridgewater as quarterback does cap his ceiling, and especially because I think, like I said before, Jerry Judy just fits Bridgewater's play style better. My number one sit that I had listed here was a guy we've already talked about, and that's Allen Robinson. Like I said, we don't want to sit him. I personally love Allen Robinson on my fantasy football team, but being shadowed by Jalen Ramsey and what he did last year to elite option at the wide receiver position, I am just kind of if you can't bench him, I get it. Like he's a stud, but in this situation, you might have better options and a better matchup. And then number 5 is Kenny Gallaudet. Obviously, he's dealt with a hamstring injury all offseason. Didn't allow him and Daniel Jones get on the same page, and he actually just came out, I think it was yesterday, that said they were rusty and that they didn't have that opportunity to really grow the chemistry that they need to. So that's not what you want to hear. Saquon's back, and Denver's defense was 8th best in terms of receiving touchdowns last year, and I think Gallaudet is more of a touchdown-dependent option for week 1, and given Denver's stinginess and letting receivers into the end zone, I feel like he's just going to need a couple more weeks in order to start paying off for your team if he can even stay healthy that long.
Yeah, I'm pretty out on Kenny Gallaudet this year. I just feel like he's kind of like he does at times create some separation and stuff like that. But he's kind of more of like a 50-50 ball guy. And I don't know if Daniel Jones is going to love making those throws. So I'm not huge on Kenny Gallaudet this season in general. So I don't mind that sit there. And Allen Robinson too, I can agree with. I just feel like Allen Robinson's one of those guys, unless you have a stacked wide receiver room, you're still starting. But I agree. I like it here. All right, Ryan, let's move on to tight ends quick. Hit me with your top tight end sit. Well, it doesn't even have to be top, just one of the top 5.
So, yeah, I'm not going to go through 5 because I feel like tight end is such a volatile position where it's just kind of touchdown dependent after you get past these top couple guys. But
so what do we got? 2 or 3? How many do you want to do? Let's just do 2. Top 2 sits.
2 works.
So give me 1.
So number 1 for me would be, and this is going to hurt for me personally because I have quite a few shares of him now, is TJ Hawkinson. And it's for the reasons that you already stated. I think he's going to see a ton of volume, but I don't think Detroit's going to move the ball very well against San Francisco, and San Francisco is not a great matchup for tight ends. So even though I really like TJ Hawkinson for a yearly status, I feel like he's going to finish very high at the tight end position. For this week against San Francisco, I just feel like he's not a guy that you're going to have as a top 5 option for this week. Like I said, these are guys that Hawkinson is one of those guys that you can't really sit because he does have that upside of being the only option in the receiving game at his position, but it's just not – it's one of those things where you're not going to get what you're possibly expecting from him in a matchup. You know what I mean? Like, it's not – you're probably not going to have a better option to start over him, but I just don't like the matchup, and I don't think he gets what he's projected to get. And then my other guy is Mike Gesicki against New England. I feel like we already talked about it. Tough matchup for Tua. Tough matchup in general for the Dolphins. Could be a lower scoring game, to be honest with you. I feel like both defenses are pretty solid and 2 inexperienced quarterbacks. So
sorry, I'm slacking here on my picks.
You
said Gesicki?
Close. Yeah, Mike Gesicki.
Why?
Like I just said, tough matchup.
Is it though?
What?
Is it though? Is New England that tough though? Let's be real. Against the tight ends? Unless I'm wrong, I thought they were one of the worst. Oh, no.
They're an average matchup according to Fantasy Pros rankings, I should say. But I'm just not, like I said, Gesicki's in that range where it's touchdown dependent. So I mean, if he scores a touchdown today, I'm wrong, and he's viable to start because of just the tight end position in general. But if he does get in the end zone, he likely doesn't make it worthy in your lineup.
Fair. I could see that. See, I expect him to get a touchdown. I think that Tua likes the tight end position, so I'm kind of just like I'm in on Gesicki this week. But I could see it. It's definitely an option where he could just be irrelevant because New England isn't super, super hard. But I just feel like the matchup for the wide receivers is even worse. So if they're passing, like they're going to probably funnel into the tight end more than the wide receiver.
Yeah, and they very well could, but if he doesn't score a touchdown, I just don't think he sees enough volume to make him worthy of a start in PPR or especially standard formats.
Fair enough. All right. Yeah, tight ends are tough. Like I feel like who are you really like choosing between here? But I'm out on Robert Tonyan this week. I don't like the matchup against the Saints. It's another team that's very good against the tight end. I feel like this is going to be a Davonte Adams game / just a run game. I think it's also going to be maybe a little bit like lower scoring than we think. Both teams are good. I just feel like the Saints are going to need to really step it up and play defense very well. I also heard that I think Marshawn Lattimore might not be playing, so that might open up the outside type passing for Davonte Adams and say like Allen Lazard or the newly acquired Amari Rodgers in the draft. I think that the touchdown dependency for Robert Tonyan could be going down in this game, especially with all the new weapons and added approach. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like he's going to see a huge touchdown regression. So I'm just not big on him, especially against the Saints. Another guy that I've seen a lot of like and love from some of the bigger markets this week, which is kind of surprising to me. I don't necessarily love the matchup or like how is everybody going to get used in this offense, but it's Tyler Higby. A lot of people like him this week. Pro Football Focus against the Bears. I mean, he's the 8th worst matchup according to Pro Football Focus. So like I'm just out on Tyler Higby. And if you went 0 tight end, I would be looking at different options like a Jordan Akins as a flex or like a Tyler Conklin, somebody like those routes versus Tyler Higby this week. I just don't love the matchup against the Bears, especially because we don't know what Jacob Harris is going to be involved in either, or how this offense is really going to look with Matthew Stafford under center. So these are 2 guys I'm out on this week.
Fair enough.
All right, Ryan. Do we want to move on to starts or how do we want to do this? It's 11:40 now. I don't know how long you want to stay on. Is Dan answering you? I haven't heard anything from Felix either. So in the chat, at least.
Did we didn't go over Felix's thing, right?
No, we have Felix's team here. We also have Dan's team in the queue. We can also go over maybe this guy or that guy from some games, or
we can touch on Felix's lineup and see where Dan is at that point after we're done with him.
All right. So Felix's team is a half PPR team. I know he was looking at a second flex option is kind of where he was looking at. So basically how this breaks down is he has a quarterback, 2 starting running backs, which one was Ezekiel Elliott already. He also has Montgomery and Jacobs in his lineup. He then also has Tyler Lockett, Cortland Sutton, and Jerry Judy. Jonnu Smith, little backstory. He said that he did lose last year. He wasn't great. He's playing, I think, the top team that won last year this week. So I know he said his second flex option, but Ryan, is there anything else? This is also a defense. I believe it's the Broncos. I don't have those made yet, so sorry. That's why there's a random gray space there. But then his bench is Dylan, Diami Brown, Elijah Moore, Henry Ruggs, Devontae Smith, Juwan Johnson. Then he also had a Ryan Tannehill is on his injured reserve, and he needs to activate him, so he was looking for somebody to just drop. He was thinking Joe Burrow for Ryan Tannehill. Ryan, how do you feel? I think there's some changes I would make in this starting lineup, let alone the flex here. But why don't you kind of see what you say?
So for me, this is obviously 1 QB league, assuming it's probably redraft. I would probably be dropping either, like you said, Joe Burrow or Juwan Johnson to put Ryan Tannehill in my starting lineup. Like we talked about before, I think that game gets pretty high scoring and is turned into a shootout later on. He obviously started Zeke already, so that puts a little bit of a damper on his outlook for this week. David Montgomery and Cortland Sutton were both, and Josh Jacobs were all sits for me and you. So, I'm definitely putting Davonte Smith in my lineup for Cortland Sutton.
So you're saying I agree with that. Why don't we make that change here? We'll see what we get with that change. So we want to put Davonte Smith in here for Cortland Sutton if my computer works. For some reason it's not. Okay, so let's add Davonte Smith here. We'll bank Cortland Sutton this week. What else changed do you see here, Ryan?
See, I don't like either of his running backs this week, but I'm also not starting A.J. Dillon this week.
Yeah, I feel like his running backs you got to leave in at least Montgomery. I feel like I'm going Montgomery over Jacobs. Both the matchups are great. Montgomery should see the volume. But if I can, I feel like the only play here is the choice is, do we want to start? I feel like Smith for Cortland Sutton is a good move. I like that. But the question now, I guess, would be Jacobs, Mooney, Elijah Moore, and Cortland Sutton for me. Like those four is where I would start to question and how I want to tool this, because Mooney against the Rams isn't great. Jacobs against the Ravens isn't great. Sutton against the Giants is not great. I do like Elijah Moore, so I feel like I want to plug him somewhere in there. And I don't know if I'm ready to give Diami Brown the run. Like, I don't know if you are.
Sorry, I got distracted here.
You're
kind of breaking news that we just got. Trey Sermon and Zach Moss are both inactive today.
Seriously? Oh, wow. Yeah, I just saw it scroll across the bottom.
Trey Sermon. So Raheem Mostert if anybody asks about Raheem Mostert, he's a must start for me. People had him in their questions. Start Raheem Mostert. Basically no matter what at this point. But in terms of this lineup here,
I kind of almost like Devin Singletary now.
Yeah.
Like he's the guy. Him and Breda. Oof.
Well, Matt Breda.
Yeah. All right, but as far as Felix's lineup,
my thinking of this lineup is I'm not really trying to start two Bears against that Rams defense, but I can't really move Montgomery. Diami Brown with Curtis Samuel out could see a little bit more run, but I'm just not willing to take that chance yet. I feel like Adam Humphries might get a little bit more work as opposed to Diami.
Keelan Cole's out too.
Yeah, so I'm firing Elijah Moore up for Darnell Mooney then.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move in here. We'll fire up here.
I didn't see
Elijah Moore. I just Rapporteur just tweeted it.
Maybe I did see it. I had my phone sitting right in front of me. That's the only reason why I saw the Sermon Zach Moss news.
All right, so do we like Jacobs then staying over Diami, and who's on his bench? I'm going to say I think
Honestly,
he has a little bit. I think this is what I would do. You know what I mean? I'd bench Sutton for Smith and move out Mooney for Elijah Moore. I feel like.
So I got another question for you about his team. Would you have Juwan Johnson on your bench right now? Or would you go see if there's maybe another running back that you could possibly have?
Honestly, I'd probably hold Juwan Johnson, and I don't know. Maybe. I guess it would depend on who's in the waiver wires. And he's got a lot of running backs. They're good options. Elliott, Montgomery, Jacobs, and Dillon. It's not bad. It's just they're bad matchups in week 1.
Yeah, and I agree, but I didn't know if I guess 3 run. Yeah, I guess I can hold him.
I think it just looks bad because he does not starting a lot of wide receivers. He's starting 3 running backs. So
yeah,
but
Dan just got back to me. He said he just woke up. He said he'll hop on in 5 minutes if you want to send him the link to the stream.
All right, I guess I could.
While we wait for Dan, do you want to go into any sleepers, or do you want to do maybe a top start sit for positions as we're getting closer? We're only an hour and 15 minutes away from kickoff.
Yeah, why don't we? Let me send this to Dan. Why don't we go to? I feel like let's skip quarterbacks here.
Okay.
First top starts. I feel like most people are just starting the studs. So why don't we go with a top starts at the running back position here for you.
For me, number 1 for me is going to be, which might be kind of obvious, but I'll talk about a guy we've already talked about. Raheem Mostert is obviously a must start for me, especially with the news that Sermon's out. There's not really much to say about it other than great matchup. He averages over 5 yards a carry and almost 10 yards per reception last season when he was healthy. So I expect that game to be relatively out of hand, relatively early, and you can see Raheem Mostert have a really big week. Number 2, I'm going to go with James Robinson. Again, it might be a little obvious, but it's been a wild ride to get to this point, to be honest with you. Like, we went from having him be more of like a flex play to now being thrusted back into that RB1 conversation. He's looking like a top option again now that Etienne's unfortunate injury occurred. I will say that the hiring of Urban Meyer could be a problem since we don't really know what the offense is going to look like, and they say Hyde is going to have a role. But Robinson's been a guy that can shows what he can do with a full workload. And they're playing the Texans, who are not expected to be very good. So I expect Robinson to see a ton of work to do.
Justin agrees. Robinson 2 touchdowns, pays plus 400. It's good prop there.
Win. I like it.
All right, Ryan. Who's 3?
3 for me is another guy that we talked about, Austin Eckler. I mean, I understand the defense and the injury concerns, but I mean, this is a guy that people were talking about as the potential RB1 overall if he can stay healthy in this offense. And I don't think that's the case. I feel like if CMC stays healthy or Derrick Henry has the work that he normally gets, I feel like those guys are probably up there along with Dalvin Cook. But right now he's currently like RB 18 on ECR. And I feel like he's just too talented and too good of an offense and is likely to see too large of a workload to be ranked that low. Averages 17 touches per game last year and could be in line for even more given the inconsistent production behind him and the improved offensive line that they're having or that they do have. So Austin Eckler is my 3rd start.
I like it. I can agree with it. I love Austin Eckler this year in general. This week it's going to be, might not see a huge top upside, but I like it. I think he's gonna have a good week. Top 12 week, I think, still. All right, Ryan, 4.
Number 4 is Chris Carson.
Mm-hmm.
And I said earlier in the show that I really like him this week. I know it's a tough Indianapolis defense, but I feel like I'm leaning on the volume and how I think Seattle is going to want to attack Indy's defense. When given a larger workload, Carson's produced in games where he saw 14 or more touches last year. He's had just under 17 points per game. And even if Russ does cook, like he did in the first half of last year. Carson was so super effective during that span where Russ was cooking. He was RB8 from weeks 1 through 6, and then he got hurt and then was RB12 from weeks 12 through 17, despite only having 3 total touchdowns in that span. So, if he's given the work, he should be a very solid start for you this week. And then my last one, going a little bit deeper, is Kareem Hunt. He's not going to see the overall work that the guys above him on the list most likely are, but Hunt's potential for this one is relatively high. Kansas City's got a bottom 10 defense to running backs last season, despite giving up league low 7 rushing touchdowns. The problem for the Chiefs last year was that they gave up the 9th most receptions, 3rd most receiving yards, and 6th most receiving touchdowns to backs last year. Hunt's traditionally seen the majority of the receiving work for the Browns out of the backfield the last 2 seasons, and I wouldn't really expect that to change much. Cleveland's likely going to need to pass a ton in this one, and Hunt could be the prime benefactor, especially if OBJ is inactive.
I don't know. I mean, the inactives are out. I haven't seen if he's out yet.
I haven't seen anything either. I haven't seen whether he's active or inactive. I just saw that Austin Eckler is active.
I think that OBJ is playing. I saw them talking a little bit about it on game day morning here, but I like the Kareem Hunt play. It's a revenge game. I like this. I like all 5 of these. I'm starting all 5 of these guys if I can. So I like it. Brian, why don't you just go right into the wide receivers? We'll just let you roll. We'll make you the star of the show this week.
Every week.
It's always you.
All right. So my number 1 start for wide receivers is Julio Jones.
Really?
Like I mentioned before, not likely to be shadowed by the opposing team's number 1 corner for the first time in his career, probably since high school. Julio could be in for a large workload with A.J. Brown opposite of him. Julio's still extremely talented. I don't think anyone would argue with me on that. And what should be a high-scoring game against the Cardinals, I would definitely be firing Julio up in my lineups this week.
I agree. I like it.
Number 2 is another one of my guys this season, and that's DJ Moore. The Jets gave up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers last year, and given the return of CMC and Robbie Anderson, plus the addition of Terrace Marshall, I don't expect Moore to be a guy that the Jets are able to just focus and key in on. He's been my guy all offseason so far, and I think you should be pretty confident firing him up as your wide receiver 2 with upside this week.
I like that. I just always worry about like the touchdown upside, but I feel like DJ Moore, again, another one, a must start. I like it.
He's one of those. I'm in the camp that thinks that his touchdown is due for positive regression at this point, but touchdowns are so volatile that it's hard to predict what they're going to do, and you just don't really know. So I'm just kind of banking on the talent and banking on what I think he's going to see in volume. Number 3 is Corey Davis, and I think it's purely a volume-based play. I feel like he's just going to get peppered with targets this week. Zach Wilson obviously likes him, obviously has a great rapport with him. Like I said, the last preseason game together, Zach Wilson's first 4 throws went immediately to Corey Davis. I don't even think he looked the other way. So if you're in need of a high-volume upside play, Corey Davis is a great addition to your lineup if you can put him in there.
I like Corey Davis. I think I'm just worried about like how good is Jace Horn, because I would believe Jace Horn would cover him. I'm not sure if Carolina has another top corner off the top of my head, but I like it. I think he's going to be peppered too. I agree.
Number 4 for me is Tyler Boyd.
I like that.
We talked about him, and we talked about Burrow, and I don't think Burrow is going to have that big of a day himself, but I feel like Tyler Boyd or T. Higgins, I like both of them. I just said Tyler Boyd because I'm not going to mention 2 Bengals as a start for this week. With the addition of Chase and Mixon returning, Boyd's been a guy people thought would be the low man on the totem pole in Cincy now, but I think he's one of the better options for week 1. I think Burrow trusts Boyd after their time together last year. In the games that they played together, Boyd saw at least 8 targets in 7 games. 7 of those 10 games that Burrow was in the lineup. So if he sees that same volume, he should be in for a pretty solid day.
Ooh, Wayne Gallman's inactive today.
No, Mike Davis is a start now.
Wow. So he must just not either A, be ready, or that's interesting.
I'm going to say he's got to be either he didn't pick the playbook up very well, or he just isn't in good enough shape. Maybe, like I said, I haven't heard anything based off of him, so I have no idea what he's looking at, to be honest with you.
That's definitely interesting. I think, considering they don't have who's even behind him. Didn't they cut Olsen to get him?
Cordell Patterson.
I guess. Wow. All right, Ryan, give us 5.
Cordell Patterson a flex play now for you?
No, probably not. I mean, I get it, but no.
In that
Unless I'm desperate.
High scoring game?
No.
Well, no, not in like a 10-team league, but I'm saying like a 14, 16-team league.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 14, 16, yeah. I mean, he's probably was a start to begin with. You know what I mean?
No. I'm in an 18-team league, and he wouldn't have started on my roster on that.
Well, it just must be better than I am. I probably would have.
Yeah. Truth's the truth. You said it, not me. So number 5 is the guy we've talked about a bunch today is Davonte Smith. I think he leads all rookies in targets this year. I feel like if I was a betting man, I'd probably put my money on that. Up against the Falcons, great matchup. You see a huge target share, potential shootout. I'm not really sure what else you want from a wide receiver outside of those 3 factors. 4 factors.
I like it. I mean, this is all obviously outside of your top guys. But yeah, I like these 5. This is a really good list right here, Ryan. Good work. And
Appreciate it.
We have our special guest, Dan Park, who is joining us. He's going to be our first live roster, I guess, reconstruction. Dan, how's it going?
Going good, man. How are you?
Oh, we're peachy. A lot of surprise inactives if you haven't been paying attention yet. One of which is on your bench. But Ryan, here's Dan's team. He's obviously in the same boat that I am in a couple spots. Zeke Elliott started and laid the dud for us. And I'm in your spot as well. It's not good. But Dan, what's your question? Hit us with it. Your defense kicker's not in here because I don't have those made yet. So
yeah, just a flex spot between Mike Williams and Elijah Moore. I'm having a hard time because I know Crowder's on the COVID list, and Elijah Moore could slot right into the slot role and see the field right away, and he could just smash. And then Williams, I know Eckler's playing, but he has you can get 1 catch and he's 10 points. So it's so hard for me to decide between those 2.
Well, I'm going to give you some extra bonus too that will help you really like Elijah Moore this week because Keelan Cole is inactive as well. So it seems like it's Corey Davis and Elijah Moore as your top 2 options with the Jets, unless Denzel Mims, fingers crossed, comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But Ryan, how do you feel? I think I'm leaning Elijah Moore here over Mike Williams, just because I like the matchup a little bit better. But I don't know. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm probably leaning Elijah Moore as well because, like we've already talked about, Mike Williams does face that tough Washington secondary, and you actually has Herbert as a sit this week. So if he's a sit, then I don't really see how Eckler, Keenan Allen, and Mike Williams are all viable this week. I feel like Eckler is kind of guaranteed workload, and I feel like Keenan Allen's kind of a guaranteed workload. But having Zeke in your lineup really obviously hurt you for this week, and Mike Williams might have that home run upside, like you had mentioned. So, and we don't like Allen Robinson this week, even though I feel like you have to start him.
Oh, I'll start him anytime. He's my favorite receiver. He's just guaranteed.
being shadowed by Ramsey, though. Still feel confident?
That's totally fine with me. He'll be all right.
Ooh.
I don't love it, but I love your confidence. I'll put it that
I
way.
do love the confidence. He does love
I
it.
have to have some.
Dan is a huge Allen Robinson fan, so I will give him that.
I mean, he's like me too, though. I have to have confidence in every guy on my roster that I started Zeke in, so they're all going to hit just because, please.
They have to.
Right? You guys are in a situation you have to perform. I don't care if I'm not your actual coach. Like, you have to do it.
I just got off the phone with all my players, too. We had a little pep talk. And
It'll hype them up a
we're all
little
good
bit.
to go.
Yeah, I feel it.
I'm probably going to go with Elijah Moore here.
I agree.
Just because with all those inactives on the wide receiver list for the Jets, I feel like they're going to, when they're throwing, they're going to have to throw to either Corey Davis or Elijah Moore, and their running back room is kind of, like I said, I'm not starting any of the Jets running backs if I can. So me personally, I would start Elijah Moore and just kind of cross your fingers that Mike Williams doesn't have a 60-yard touchdown catch and burn you.
I just feel like he's not going to get that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the Washington football team. I don't think Herbert's going to have enough time to stand back there and make those throws, let alone Washington get beat that way. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And Mike Williams isn't
mean?
like that guy that creates separation. He's basically winning off a jump ball, 50-50, big body plays. And like you said, Chase Young and Montez Sweat and those guys, like those, their front seven is as good as any in the league. So they're gonna be giving Herbert fits for the most part, most likely. So
And
I
I
see a lot of dump off to Eckler.
Yeah, and I feel like Elijah Moore has just as much a home run ability as Mike Williams. You know what I mean? The talk's been great about him all preseason. And I think he sees more volume. I think that the Jets throw a little bit more than the Chargers will against this defense.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that'd be my play, yeah.
All right, Dan, that's where we're at. You don't have to listen to us, but I think Elijah Moore seems like a little bit better play than Mike Williams this week. Is there anybody else? Huh?
Yeah, quick question for you.
Hit us.
Looking at my bench and everything, I don't know if Tony Jones is worth a roster spot, or I don't even know who I would even consider dropping for Tony Jones. Because I know he's going to have a role in the offense. I just don't know how big or.
Is it free ad right now?
Yeah.
Or is it waiver?
It's he's free to add right now.
I don't know about you, Ryan. I like the idea. I'm kind of in the boat in a couple leagues too, where they're a little shallower. I like Tony Jones I think he's going to be involved, like you're saying. I think he's a good option to add if you can. It's just a tough situation because there's guys on my rosters in spots like yours here where like you're pretty deep, so it's like hard to justify who.
Yeah, and all these guys, all the rookies I have could just smash, or AJ Dillon could have a big role, and then I let him go, and Aaron Jones goes down, and it's just a lose-lose right now for me.
Me, I don't know about you, Ryan. I would lean maybe Ramondre Stevenson and Rondell Moore. I'm not a big Ramondre guy. I know a lot of people are. I still think there's a lot of options still in that backfield. Obviously, though, this week could change. You know, it might be one of those options that maybe you wait and see how these guys are used. Rondell Moore, too, is another guy that's like could be used in a lot of different ways that could be really viable. And see how much Tony Jones is used. You know what I mean? I feel like you're going to see the plethora of the backfield today against the Packers. You're going to see how Kamara and Jones are going to get used all over because there's not a lot of other options for them to throw to, and that defense is legit. So I don't know. That's tough. I mean, like I said, I think Ramondre is my guy that I'd probably drop if I was going to make a move. But I could see your struggle. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I think from the things that I've read online, I'm actually hearing that Kylan Hill might be pushing AJ Dillon for that running back 2 spot. I just did an article for FF League winners on like the rookie landscape from last year, so all the 2020 rookies, and AJ Dillon was on that list, obviously. And he, while I was doing the research for that article, there's a lot of people saying that Kylan Hill might be pushing him back into that third option role out of the backfield. And they really like Kylan Hill over there. He's actually going to receive the starting kickoff for the Packers today. So I feel like Stevenson is a guy that pre-draft I compared him to Garrett Blunt, and I feel like they might use him in that manner in that offense. Like if Damien Harris being effective in the red zone, I feel like they might bring Stevenson in and he just might vulture a bunch of touchdowns and then
just a battering ram.
Yeah, just take over more of a lead, take more carries later on down the season. But it is nice having at least a handcuff to Aaron Jones in that offense. But the running back 3 in the Packers offense has been basically worthless in past couple of years, while the running back 2 has been actually kind of viable. So I would like to see how Tony Jones is used this week. But at the same time, at that point, it's probably too late to add him. I'm sure somebody will probably pick him up off the waiver wire. And assuming you don't have the first priority, you'd probably lose out on him. I think I would
see, like if it's free ad. See, I would switch Tony for Ramondre just because I feel like the usage today.
Yeah, but you're not going to start him.
Yeah, but you're not starting him. But Ramondre, you aren't going to start either.
Well, no, but
so what I'm saying is I think Ramondre is going to have less of an impact this game than Tony Jones will. So if one of them's going to hit today, it's going to be Tony Jones over Ramondre. And
so you're saying pick up Tony Jones in the event that he does something and Ramondre doesn't, and it's like less likely that Stevens gets picked up off the waiver wire as opposed to Tony Jones.
Correct.
Okay.
And then if Tony Jones is a dud, and you could probably re-add Ramondre and be fine. Is my way I look at it.
Popped off today.
Yeah, unless. But that's the risk you're taking. You know what I mean? So it depends on who do you like more? Do you like Ramondre more, or are you willing to miss out on Tony Jones? Do you know what I'm saying? So,
I mean, New Orleans moved on from Latavius Murray, who was really effective last year, in order
they like Tony Jones.
for
That's
Tony
for sure.
Jones to be involved in that offense. So, yeah, I mean, if you're going to drop one, I guess I would choose between Dillon and Stevenson. And I think the Patriots-Miami game is probably lower scoring.
Yeah.
So you might be willing to drop Stevenson and just hope that nobody's looking forward later on in the league, like later on in the year. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to pick him up, I'd probably drop Stevenson. Like Jeremy said, Jeremy makes a good point about Stevenson might not do anything this week and nobody really pay attention to him until the following week. And if Jones does nothing, then it didn't really hurt you anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my only route that I see that you could really get him before today.
Because I'm definitely not dropping Terrace Marshall for him.
And I feel like St. Brown and Rondell Moore have like a bigger cult following on fantasy football than Ramondre Stevenson.
Oh yeah, I feel like people would.
You know what I mean?
And be like, "Yep, I'm going to go grab him regardless."
Yeah, you drop Dillon or Sermon, they're going to go after him too. You know what I mean? The guy that on your bench that has the least likelihood to get picked up would be Stevenson.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion. But if you like Stevenson, I'd hold him and just see what Tony Jones does today. You know what I mean? Like it would be that easy, you know. It's tough. Like I said, I was in that same boat. I made a couple decisions to just pass on them in those leagues that I couldn't find somebody to drop in. Like in a redraft league or something, it just didn't seem right to me to drop one of these guys to add a guy that we don't really totally know how good he's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a hard one for me. I'm struggling with this. I've been going back and forth. I looked at it like 10 times since like yesterday. So
I feel you.
Yeah, I hear you.
All right, Dan, we're going to let you go. Enjoy your football.
Yes, sir. Go Titans.
Yeah, I'm with you. I want the Titans to win. I like them, except when they play the Bills and obliterate us. So but this week, I'll root for them with you. So
don't bring it up.
Yeah.
He brings it up all the time in the chat.
My final words to Dan is it was a forward pass. So see you later. Booted. All right. As soon as I know he's a Titans fan, he's gone. All right. We got one last question here. Then we're probably going to hop off as football gets close.
Yeah, I got to set my own lineups.
Exactly. Hayden Rittenhouse, Matt Ryan or Joe Burrow, PPR league. Ryan. I think I'm leaning Matt Ryan here. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. We already talked about it. High scoring game there with the Eagles. Burrow was a sit for me. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Matt Ryan there.
All right. I like it. All right. Well, I'd say it was a pretty successful week 1 for us. Hopefully next week, some people tune back in. Maybe we get a little bit more. Like I said, send stuff ahead of time to us. DM the Twitter at FF Playmakers. Send us your roster. We can kind of make it how you saw there with Dan. If you guys want to come on, you can reach out to us. Let us know. We can have it face-to-face like that. If not, you can just kind of hop in the chat like, say, Dominique did earlier. We can pull up your roster, kind of go through, move some pieces around, and kind of help you get a visual for it. But other than that, Ryan, you got any last parting words here?
Man, I'm just excited for football to be back. I'm really looking forward to just watching the games all day. I've missed it quite a bit. I'm really excited to have fans back in the stands, to be honest with you. I miss hearing that like roar of the crowd when a big play happens. I miss hearing like the boos and stuff like that when a ref makes a bad call or they think he makes a bad call. Like I miss that interaction from the fans that we didn't get to have last year. I felt like it was still exciting last year, but just not as exciting. Especially like I know a couple of buddies of mine that went up to the Bills Steelers game today. I got a couple of Snapchats that I want to look at. I'm sure that place is probably going to be obnoxiously loud. Like that place is going to be bumping all afternoon.
I can't hear it yet, so
I'm sure
not that loud yet.
I don't know how far.
But I'm also in the basement, so
but
a couple miles.
How many?
Couple miles. I'm down the street.
You might hear something. I know that stadium is going to be loud, but yeah, it's just. Hope you guys enjoy it. I really appreciate all the interaction that we had today. Hopefully we get like like Jeremy had said. I hope people that came on come back for next week. Hopefully we steer you guys in the right direction and help you guys get off to a good start for your fantasy leagues. And hoping to see you guys back next week. Yeah,
and I echo all that. Let's hope that we all get the W's. And I know Ryan's probably going to be the same. If you guys want, if you missed out on this show, feel free to send any questions to us between now and the kickoff of games. If it's on at FF Playmakers, one of us will get to it. If not, you can DM us privately or just tweet us privately at Popes FFH, and or you can find Ryan at Mackey_FFB. Otherwise, go Bills, and let's hope that we all get fantasy wins because that'd be great. So, all right, everybody, till next week.